Ooh.
That's fine.
All right. All righty. My name is Corbin Sales. I'm a center-left liberal streamer, commentator. You can find me on X, YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok by the same name. And today, I'm hosting a very special debate on who's more responsible for political violence, Democrats or Republicans. And today, the structure of this conversation is going to be, we'll give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, then we'll do 2-minute openers, and then we'll have a free-form discussion. Hopefully, I can stay out of the conversation as much as possible. I only have 2 rules. 1, try to stick to the subject, and 2, try not to interrupt each other as much as possible. All right, Mr. Soypill, would you like to shout yourself out?
Yeah, what's up? I'm the Soy Pill. Thanks for having me. I do video essays and I stream sometimes. Do I give my intro now or just say who I am?
We'll do openers
later. Okay, yeah, that's me.
And then John Paul.
All right, I'm John Paul. I am a student at UC Berkeley, where I'm studying philosophy, economics, and public policy. I'm also the president of the Turning Point USA chapter here, and I've made several appearances on media outlets such as Fox News or The Charlie Kirk Show, and have done a lot of work within the conservative movement.
All right, Mr. Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. I'm a political satirist. I'm a political analyst, and I do debates of all sorts all around the world.
All right, and finally, Vince.
I am the Vince Wilson Show. I am a political commentator. I stream on YouTube, Twitch, and occasionally I will be on TikTok Lives. And I try to post as many YouTube Shorts and TikTok Lives as possible. So you can find me on any of those platforms.
All righty. Soy, you have 2 minutes.
Intro? Yeah, I'll be faster than that. So yeah, the stats show that the overwhelming majority of political violence is committed by the right wing, but I wouldn't attribute all of this to rhetoric. I think many people need extreme circumstances or mental illness in their life to want to risk everything and think that their violence will have substantial impact. It's also kind of silly that we talk about political violence in America as some sort of like major thing when you can look at, I don't know, the Troubles during Ireland or any other political violence where it becomes a part of everyday life with paramilitaries. But to be fair, we're still going to, centralize this to America. And I think that ultimately, if we want to look at whose rhetoric is more harmful, it's undeniably also the right. Democrat politicians, again and again, will try to build bridges and condemn violence, while Republicans, especially Donald Trump, will deflect, turn up the temperature, and even pardon those who commit political violence on his behalf, calling to defeat the enemy within, the Democrats, the extremist party, or in some cases, the party of pedophiles. So I think the rhetoric and blame is incredibly one-sided.
All right, John Paul.
All right, once again, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight and everyone who's watching. And tonight's debate hinges on whoever can pin the most blame on the opposing mainstream political party. And I never thought I'd have to debate violence against the party of death, riots, and abortion, but here I am defending what I believe to be the obvious answer to the question. Now, due to the left's tendency to misclassify and misrepresent political violence, I will be extra clear on the framework for the debate morally and definitionally. Violence is the behavior involving physical force to cause harm or destruction. And when that violence is political, it is set to achieve certain political ends. When we analyze which party is more culpable for the presence of political violence, we must look at the specific actions taken by the mainstream party that are plausibly linked to the occurrence of those political violent actions. The more impactful, damaging, and persistent that political violence is, the more culpable the mainstream party is as a result, assuming you could properly link the party to the violence. With that said, the core distinction here between the two parties is clear. Almost all violence from the right comes from the fringe right and is always condemned, whereas almost all violence from the left comes from the overwhelmingly present factions with strong ideological backing and influence in the mainstream Democratic Party, which typically normalizes, excuses, or rationalizes violence. The violence from the fringe right cannot be linked to the Republican Party since, again, their ideology is never taken seriously by the party, and such violence is always condemned. The violence from the left is strongly associated with the rhetoric, ideology, and the movement of the mainstream left, which is culpable for fostering a climate for such violence. In modern U.S. history, the largest sustained political violence comes from the left, in which the mainstream persistently tries to exclude reports of discussion or political violence, namely the 2020 BLM and Antifa riots, which caused $2+ billion of destructions, dozens of murders, and thousands of injured officers. Kamala Harris, as a response, promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund that bailed out rioters, and major news outlets described the arson as looting as justice, with many left-wing academics and activists openly arguing that property destruction isn't violence. The aggressive and persistent references to Republicans as fascist, Nazis, and literally Hitler also does not help. If you think it is good to kill Hitler, which it is, then it is good to kill Republicans. Maybe that's why Charlie Kirk's assassin etched in Antifa slogans and catch fascist on the bullet that he used to shoot him with. So the distinction is clear. If a pro-life Jewish conservative walks onto Columbia University, he's at risk of being assaulted.
You almost done?
Yes, this will be last line. If a pro-life Jewish conservative walks on Columbia University, he is at risk of being assaulted. Whereas if a general Democrat walks on Hillsdale College, he's at risk at losing a debate. So I think the framework for this is very clear. Fringe right is responsible for most of the violence from the right, whereas the mainstream left is responsible for building the climate that creates these large-scale violent acts.
All right. Thank you very much. Andrew Wilson.
Shouldn't the leftists go first? So it's left, right, left, right.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I was just going in order of introduction.
I mean, not to tell you how to run your own show.
Oh, no, you're good.
So
you're
you know,
good.
I'm better at it than you. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vince.
Yeah, I got you. So, who is more responsible for political violence in America? The evidence shows the right commits more of it, but the difference isn't just in the numbers, it's in the response. When violence comes from the left, Democrats condemn it outright. When it comes from the right, Republicans deflect, blame mental illness, and ignore their own rhetoric. That imbalance matters. One party takes responsibility, the other refuses. When a party won't own the consequences of its rhetoric, it becomes indirectly more responsible for the violence that follows.
All righty. Thank you for the very succinct opener. And Andrew.
Yep.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah. Very succinct. Right. To the point.
Yeah, I guess. All right. So all of the claims from our opponents are going to hinge on studies that I guarantee you none of them have read. The soy pill likely will actually tell you the truth about that. He's pretty good about that. He'll probably actually tell you, you know what? I didn't actually read any of these. Vince Wilson will not. He'll pretend that he did, but he didn't read any of them. Let me tell you how I know that. I know that because of all the claims as I've gone through the two which they focus on, which are from the Cato Institute, and then the second one, which is from a specific project that an Antifa member is in charge of. The first claim is that the right is responsible for 6 times as many terror deaths compared to the left, and that's according to Cato. That's what they focus on. And the truth, Cato only focuses on deaths from terrorism and has glaring omissions, which put the entire study in question, which includes the fact that Michael Renault is Portland Antifa, and he's on camera saying, well, that he is. So anyway, Daryl Brooks, who's a noted black supremacist, in case you guys don't know this, killed 6, all white, injured 70, comments on whites. As we get into the study, guess what? Not included, even though there's a political motive. We can compare this. So, by the way, the Atlanta spa shooting, this is with Robert Aaron Long, listed as right wing, killed 8. But what's really funny about this is if we compare it with Sutherland Springs, where 26 are dead, it's not included at all. So every time I make a comparison to when the motivation was pretty clearly left wing, they just don't include them. So what I need to see is, one, I need to see in their studies that the 2020 Summer of Love, baby, actually is counted as a left-wing violence. It's not going to be, which skews the numbers. And also I have an exhaustive, almost exhaustive list of left-wingers who have conducted political violence who are not included in any of these studies. Example, I think his name is Mauricio Garcia, he killed 8. The ADL disputed that was even politically motivated. Vance Bolter, this is another one. He explicitly told reporters that it wasn't due to pro-lifer Trump that the congresswoman, that he shot this congresswoman because he was anti-abortion. None of these things get included or classified correctly. And so here's what's going to happen. Every study you fuckers cite, you dishonest fucking leftist scumbag cite, I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for these names. And if those names aren't there, they're not cited in there, I'm going to know that you're a bunch of gutless fucking liars, didn't read your own shit, because that's what always happens, right? Every single time. You're a bunch of filthy, gutless, lying sons of bitches, and you're not going to get away with it today. We're going to go through your dumbass studies, and we're just going to look at the classification. We're going to find out that when it's reclassified correctly and we take out, prison violence from prison Nazi gangs, that, well, it turns out not quite as lopsided as we've been led to believe. So, yeah, I'm happy to get into this debate. And John, it's nice to meet you. And let's stomp these fucking tarts.
Alrighty, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just first off, I want to say, Andrew, you jumped ahead of yourself a little bit there. I'm not using the Cato Institute. I'm not using the ADL. I'm using the Center for Strategic and International Studies, which is the one that kind of...
Yeah, the CSIS.
Yeah, the CSIS one.
Yeah, I got him. I got him in front of me.
Got him up. Yeah, okay. That
Yeah.
one maps up to the DOJ one as well, which is taken down, right?
Yeah. Would you like to go through the CSIS and look at all of the disputes and problems that I have with the
We can,
CSIS?
sure, but I
study?
would actually ask you to affirmatively show me any sort of study that shows that the right wing is overwhelmingly not the committers of violence. You can poke holes in anything, and I understand that, hey, this didn't include that, and you could have up to thousands of examples. But if there are thousands of examples of violence, and your little discrepancies are well within the margin of error, unless you can provide me a study that shows that the right wing is not committing more violence, I'm sorry, I'm not going to play this doesn't count because I don't want it. So I'd love to see your study. First,
we need to make sure that we classify these things correctly. Can we classify what you and I, or what we and your side would consider to be right or left wing, and what would fit in that category, so that we can determine if those people who fit in that category are conducting violence or not?
I bet if we get into the definition game, we're going to be here for 2 hours, but we can try.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty important that we understand that if there's people here who are being included who you don't even consider left wing or right wing, that they probably shouldn't be included to begin with, right?
Yeah, like,
and by the way,
a couple of the examples you brought up.
Hang on. Let me finish. Almost done. I'll toss it back over. The biggest problem that you have with your frontal argument here is you're saying, on the positive front, if you don't show me studies, even though you're already disagreeing with the classifications in these studies, which are already out here, that somehow that means that we lose. That's absurd. I'm disagreeing with these classifications to begin with. And if you could show me the equivalent of your high profile leadership getting shot and your president's almost getting murdered, I'd love to see it. But your studies, the studies which are used for this positive claim that right wingers are doing it more, are very suspect.
Right. I'm not saying that if you can't give me a study that shows that left wingers do it more, that you lose the debate. I'm saying that I have a classification that I mostly agree with that's used here. And if you have a different classification, or if you heavily disagree with this classification, I would love to see some evidence that uses your classification and also shows that left wingers do it more.
Well, let's start with
if you were able to take the numbers out of this study and say, well, actually, I classify this differently, we can compare those two numbers, and then ultimately, like, I don't know, drop a new graph, like, sure, I could use that would be fine, but otherwise I don't think there's a point in going through and saying, well, I have a minutia of problems with this classification, therefore, especially when in my intro I said specifically, if we want to get into the rhetoric and what is actually causing it, I think that's much more important, but we could do either one.
Well, the first thing that we would need to do is create these classifications to make these determinations, to make sure you even agree with them yourselves. Why is that so important? Because if your fucking assholes are going to be running around telling people that the right is committing much more political violence than the left, and then banking on studies as the thing which proves this for you, then you're going to need to demonstrate that first and foremost.
I think you ought to demonstrate how Darrell Brooks, who killed Sticks, was it was a politically motivated attack. Can you elaborate that for me, Andrew?
What's that?
Can you elaborate how Darrell Brooks, who killed Six, was a politically motivated attack? You mentioned him in your opening.
Oh no, I was making a comparison about how they don't make these classifications correctly by their own rules in that particular study. I'd have to bring both those studies up for the comparison, but that was the point I was making.
So Darrell Brooks' example was you just don't know nothing about that case, then, right?
Can you repeat back what I just said, please?
I want you to answer mine. You clearly,
I know, but I need you to repeat back what I just said so that I know that you know what I just said.
What did I just say? You were trying to mention in your opening how these are glaring contradictions, but the problem
I didn't say that they're contradictions. You're a fucking idiot. What I said was that if you make a comparison, this thing over here is left-wing violence. This other thing that's exactly like left-wing violence is not left-wing violence. It's omitted. right?
Mhm.
Then what I'm asking is that if we're going to make these types of comparisons, let's create a classification for what we consider left wing to be, what left wing violence is, and then see if I can go through an extensive list of left wing violence and make sure that these things were actually included. Because if not, we have glaring omissions. Do you agree?
Okay, and you mentioned Daryl Brooks.
Yes,
How
it's a
is that
comparison.
an
It's a
How
it-
is Daryl Brooks? Hold on, no, Andrew, answer
Uh-huh.
my question. You mentioned it. How is that an example of left wing extremism? Please elaborate.
I
I'm
wasn't
curious.
saying that it was. I was
You
making a
did, you did.
comparison that we can bring up all of these different names so that we can make a determination on if they are actually included as being left-wing violence, not left-wing violence, right-wing violence, not right-wing violence.
And you use Daryl Brooks. So answer the question then.
What's the question?
Why did you use Daryl Brooks as a form of left wing extremism?
I
Elaborate on the
didn't.
case. Tell me about the case.
I didn't, you stupid fuck.
did.
I didn't.
Yes, you did. You did.
Okay, fine.
You quite
And I
clearly
guess
did.
I'll clarify as much as I possibly can since you have the IQ of the room that you're in. Very clearly, what I'm trying to do is establish a comparison contrast. Left wing versus right wing. And if we agree thing, left wing or right wing, and then we can determine if they in study or not in study. That's it.
Did you or did you not use Daryl Brooks as an example of left wing extremism?
No, I don't think I did. I think I was making an
Okay.
example of
We're just lying.
comparisons.
Go ahead. Go ahead. We'll continue because
But
you're
in any
just lying.
case, I just clarified it 15 fucking times. If that's what you heard, then that's not
And I
definitely
just
not what I
proved that-
meant.
I just
So
proved
who
that you did
cares?
not do any basic research on what the Daryl Brooks case was about. So I'm glad. We'll continue. Go ahead.
What does this
Yeah,
have to do
fundamentally.
with anything? In fact, even better, let's say I'm completely ignorant on all of these cases. Then I guess going through each of them and determining whether or not they're left or right wing violence would behoove both of us, wouldn't it?
I think that we should stay focused on less about these definitions, which we can get into, but it's just gonna be a semantical.
What
argument.
is more
I think we should
fucking
stick to.
This is
So-
this is a semantical. This entire argument is semantics. Left wing versus right wing violence is completely 100% semantics. What else is it? What
Vince-
else is it
Vince-
besides semantics, bro?
Vince,
So-
the issue is that we're not going to, that we're talking about the semantics because the studies are primarily focused on classification. They're not going to include the 2020 BLM and Antifa riots because property destruction, for some reason, lighting a building on fire is not political violence. But when a white supremacist who became a white supremacist in prison to survive commits assault on another prisoner, somehow that is political violence perpetuated by the right. And your burden is much, much more stronger than simply citing a number in a study. You can't just cite a number in a study, say, hey, look, this study based off of faulty classification shows that there's more political violence from the right. You can't just do that because you don't know the proper classifications of things. And when you do adjust for the classifications of things, you understand where the largest scale scope of political violence has occurred, which side it is from. And you see that the left has persistently, time and time again, excused, rationalized, stood in front of burning buildings, saying the mostly peaceful protest behind me. And you go in there and you cheer with these studies and saying, like, look at this study.
Chuck
This is
Schumer
what
go
I
out
have.
and said, that's great. So if you go to the BLM protest, you can see where Chuck Schumer actually came out and said that the small minority who have exploited the protests to wreak havoc and violence are wrong, and they are not taking part in the grand American tradition of First Amendment protests. That was from
Okay, so why do you
the
think
BLM
why do you think
protest.
Kamala Harris?
We also
raised
had
bail
Gretchen
funds
Whitmer.
for-
That's great. We still had Gretchen Whitmer.
That
who
has
said,
nothing to do with
these who have
anything.
taken to the streets yes, because what it means is it's that the left, once again, as I mentioned, consistently condemns the rhetoric. I would encourage you to point out to me, for example, where you could maybe point to January 6th and say where Donald Trump condemned it, yet he then pardoned over 1,600 defendants. So again, you want to talk about how the left never condemns any of this rhetoric. There's several examples in which the left consistently condemns this rhetoric.
Wait, I'm
But
confused.
the right never does.
Did you just say that Donald Trump endorsed J6 by not pardoning the J6 defendants?
No,
I
by pardoning
said-
them is what he said.
Yeah,
Yes.
and how long did that take for the pardons
How
to
long
come
will what
through?
take?
For the pardons to come through for the J6ers?
Why does that matter?
Well,
It took 4
because
years. It took 4 years.
because the reason that would matter is because that would mean that he allowed for evidentiary findings to come through before he made the decision about pardons or not pardons, right?
Right. So when he pardons someone like Enrique Tarrio for committing, seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government, who is convicted of that and in jail for that, and he pardons him because he aligns with this political agenda, that is somehow exculpatory, matters that
I
the
think
evidence came out
you're-
later.
you're-
Like, what does that have to do with it?
First of
You're
all,
jumping way off
yeah.
the scale of the
Totally-
topic.
totally
we
off
are,
the
but I just think
topic.
this is a
But
but
very
I'm
weird,
actually
I'm
happy.
trying to
I'll
answer.
just very quickly, I'll engage with this. Right, the president has discretion to make those pardons based on what he considered to be a political witch hunt.
Yeah, I'm
Whether the
aware,
guy was
yeah, and
convicted,
it's
whether the
endorsing
guy,
people
whether
who
he
did
was
the thing, or you
convicted
plan to overthrow the
or
government.
not, and just like how Joe Biden decided to pardon his kid on the way out the fucking door. Okay, thing
Sure,
is
and if
like
this kid
you
had
can
been,
say
arrested
can
for
say,
violence, I would say
like,
that's an endorsement of Hunter Biden
you can
violence.
say what you want there, but the thing is that the president has the power to make these pardons based on what he thinks is best, and he thought that there was a political witch hunt and that this guy didn't deserve to be thrown in prison for this.
Yeah, that's a lot of words to say he pardoned a seditious conspiracist. But I want to get back to this BLM thing, because when we're talking about political violence and why or why not this is classified as political violence, I think you have to look at what is the downstream like following of a partisan message from Democrats, from Republicans, and what is actually happening here. You can call BLM political violence if it's, hey, these people were trying to. Well, hold on, let me see. Do you guys agree on the definition that political violence is a violent or credible threat of violence intended to influence government policy or intimidate civilians for political or ideological purposes?
I think it's close enough. I may make slight addendums, but I think it's close enough for this discussion.
I like
Just
to
in case, what would you addend?
I like to predicate it with causing harm or destruction.
Yeah, or coercion.
Sure. I would say, like, I'm not going to get pedantic and say that violence or threats or even, burning down buildings is somehow not political violence, just to be clear. I don't think that's why it's not counted. I think the reason BLM might not.
And when
be
they were
counted for a lot
burning
of
down
people-
police stations, did any of these studies include that?
I'm not sure, but again, the problem is
Probably
are you
not.
doing this? It might not have for that specific one, but when you look at the totality of all of these things and you look at people rioting and taking advantage of a movement, which again, as much as it is a meme, were overwhelmingly peaceful as a percentage, is not the same as political violence intended to spread a message, change people's ideology.
Did
or
you really
something
just do the
terrorist.
fiery but mostly peaceful line?
I mean, I don't know what you want
I
to
don't-
fiery
but
for
mostly
that.
peaceful.
It's literally,
I think it's actually really.
protests had no
I think
violence
it's really
in them,
telling.
but yeah.
I think it's really telling that the majority of this organization was mostly peaceful. When you have such large scale violence and destruction, $2+ billion of damages.
Here, I'll build a
dozens
bridge to you,
killed.
John. I think the MAGA movement is mostly peaceful as well, despite January 6th and any violence committed
agree.
by MAGA.
Right. Okay. So I think there's something really crucial about the framework of this debate here is that we're trying to analyze which party is more responsible. So when you
Right.
say that, like Donald Trump pardoning people 4 years after the violence was committed,
Mm-hmm.
then you're not really showing any culpability for Donald Trump. He didn't do anything to cause the violence. For
Well,
instance,
we can
if-
get
in-
to
in
the
the-
January 6th causes, but I'm specifically saying that he is showing that there's no consequences to committing political violence on his behalf. The reason I'm bringing up the BLM, I really
They
wanna
were
stick
in
on this.
jail for years.
Yeah,
What are you-
I mean,
what are you
he was a
talking
part of-
about,
He
dude?
wasn't president when he wanted to pardon them.
I
because the
know.
fucking
I was just saying.
insurrection failed. But regardless,
Wait. Donald Trump could have pardoned all of those people on his way out of office. What are you talking about?
No, I don't think he could have done that.
I think he could have. Yes, he could have.
His power, but I
Oh.
don't think it was in the political set to do it at the exact moment.
Oh,
when
so
there's
he
4
could
months
have.
of
So he
trial.
could have then. Is what you're saying?
I
He
don't
could've.
know if he could have mass pardoned them in like
Why not?
before any of their sentences
not?
were finished. Before
Yes,
any
he
of the
could have. You
prosecutions.
can pardon somebody before they ever even have to face a federal trial. You
Okay,
can pre-pardon them.
I don't know if that was within his purview at the time, but maybe I'm wrong. The point is, if we're
You're
talking
definitely
about the
wrong.
downstream- Okay, sure. The point is that we're talking about the downstream effects of the rhetoric of these politicians and how maybe a BLM riot might be like an execution of said rhetoric. So when you're looking and trying to classify BLM as political violence, you'd have to show that this violence is being perpetrated as like an extension of what these people are saying. Like, hey, I'm telling you, you need to go cause harm in this, or do you need to go like extend and perpetuate my message? And they're doing the violence to do that. When an overwhelming majority of these riots were just people fucking rioting and looting for no reason, no political ideology, just taking advantage of chaos and trying to take it.
That's a very useful kind of red herring or something like this, but it's not actually demonstrated to me that these people weren't there on the ground with Antifa terrorists, for instance, domestic terrorists, by the way, who were, and we have video after video after video of them often leading these mobs and inciting them towards violence. So the thing that's
Can you
really
be more,
funny,
explicit there. What do you mean?
Yeah, guys dressed all in black show up. They start breaking windows, setting fires. Suddenly, there's mobs all over the place. I know, not a good enough evidence for you, but for most people who are watching the videos, they tend to think, "Huh, that looks very much like organized terrorist activity." Just say,
Okay, so
like,
to be
it
clear,
does.
you don't like our studies that have comprehensive, analysis and methodology, because you might disagree with the methodology, and that's fine. But your evidence that you're going to prevent to me that BLM is politically motivated in a majority is that I saw some videos and they had masks on.
Well, wait a second. Hang on. First of all, you're making a conflationary argument. I didn't make the conflation that, oh, BLM is left wing versus your studies of the right wing. I have a much more comprehensive argument. My argument would be that the left is full of many, many more mentally ill people than the right. And I can give you studies which you would agree show this. They suffer from greater rates of depression, greater rates of overall feelings of unwellness and unhappiness. And when left-wing political primary people, this would be congressmen, senators, people in political leadership, tell these mentally ill individuals in their base that they're dealing with fascists and Nazis who are trying to take away their rights, that actually creates much more of a motivation for that mentally ill base than anything on the right, who seems to be able to discern between funny rhetoric and panic mode like you guys do anytime Trump sneezes.
Would you say that you
So, Andrew, wait.
inflict and ask violence on you and your family by naming yourself Big Papa Fascist?
You mean a debate handle?
Yeah.
A satirical debate handle?
Oh, it's a joke. Okay.
Yeah.
But these people are mentally ill. They
it's a
can't
joke,
tell the
bro.
difference. I thought.
You couldn't hang on. You didn't think that the debate handle Big Papa Fascist was satire? Are
I
you
don't know. I
fucking
mean,
serious?
all
You
this
thought
lot of
did you think I really thought I was the biggest papaist of all the fascists?
No,
Like,
I
what the
do
fuck are
really
you
think
talking?
you embrace fascism in a lot of ways. You want a Christian nationalist nation.
What?
and it
That's
seems
not
like
fascism.
It doesn't
You
really
don't know what
matter.
fascism even
Ultimately,
is,
it doesn't
dude. Give me a
ultimately matter,
break.
Andrew, because like you said, you're talking to a bunch of mentally ill left-wing people. Maybe they're not able to discern whether or not it's a joke. They're not so good at humor, and maybe you're inviting violence on you and your family.
So right wingers can't do satire because if they do, left wingers may be provoked to violence. Great argument, Soy Bill.
No, I'm saying that if you're accusing
Great
people
argument.
of accurately describing right wingers as fascists when they do fascist things, and that is invoking violence. But I would
fascist
say
things?
calling yourself a fascist is probably also doing that. And
Yeah.
I would probably
You
try
don't
to
think the
distance
point-
myself from
you
any
don't-
and
you
all
don't think the
past
point of-
names that I had that might invoke violence on me.
I got it. So when the left is calling right wingers
Mhm.
fascist for things like wanting to close off the border and having pro-life positions, that's fascism. You think that
No, I
that
didn't say that.
Oh, okay, got it. So then that would not be justified use of calling them fascists and Nazis because they have pro-life positions. Would you like
Absolutely
example after example after example of various left-wing politicians calling right-wingers fascist, authoritarians, and
So,
other
I don't need the
because they
examples.
have
I know. I'll call
pro-life
them fascists. You
positions?
don't even need to use the politicians.
Wait,
I mean, we're talking about the politicians, but ultimately, I probably agree with those statements. Go ahead, Vince.
Mhm.
I'm curious here. So, Andrew, was your argument earlier then that because the left has predominantly more mentally ill people on their side, that using inflaming rhetoric such as fascist or things of that may invoke some of those people to act upon those impulses because of the fact that they are more mentally ill?
Worse.
Is that
My argument actually is that the rhetoric specifically is targeted towards that mentally ill base in order to move them towards political
Okay.
action, not
Great.
caring about violence at all.
Gotcha. So would you agree though, because it seems like when you say there's more mentally ill, it does not negate the fact that there is still mentally ill people on the right, correct?
I don't disagree with that. Of course not.
Okay. So then if you have certain rhetoric
But I would say
that is given out
on the right.
would it not?
Yeah.
Oh,
I would say on the right. Well, there's distinctions in the types of mental illness that you're dealing with. On the right,
Okay.
the types of mental illness you're usually dealing with are things like PTSD. We've seen a lot of this, not necessarily politically oriented. A lot of times that mental illness isn't triggered by politics or political rhetoric. It's triggered by various other things because PTSD can affect people in bizarre ways. Left-wing mental illness is generally feelings of depression, feelings of unwellness, feelings of dissatisfaction, things like this. And a lot of those are actually associated with the political system as being things that make them feel like they have anxiety, make them feel like they're existing in a depressed mode. So I think that these
Gotcha.
politicians definitely target these people because they're very useful, jobless retards who show up to these protests in Portland and are clearly mentally ill. They're swinging their boobs around. You know, they all have blue hair. They have nose rings all over. They're obviously there's something wrong here with these people.
Could you give like an example, Andrew? Like, I don't know, like Chuck Schumer, I guess is probably called him a fascist, and like how you can demonstrate like this Chuck Schumer, the guy who the left, especially the radical leftists, probably more of the mentally ill ones, will agree on that, to see as a feckless, detriment to their left-wing movement, who they want to overthrow and install some communists to replace him. This is the guy who is radicalizing people to hurt right-wingers. Like, could you show me like a quote?
Who? Which guy?
Like Chuck Schumer, or like Hakeem Jeffries, or like any like political Democrat leader who like you truly think is
what they do,
radicalizing like these far left.
They don't just utilize all political pundits. In fact, when I was going through to get a comprehensive list of political pundits who have called right-wing politicians fascist and Nazis, I almost couldn't find one that didn't. It was like finding the exception. Yeah. It was actually even what's really funny is like even The Economist do it. Even the left-wing economists are like, Trump's a fascist. It's crazy.
He does fascist shit, and they describe.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. Like, he's not a fascist. Bill Clinton. We were just watching his speech the other night, right? He came out with a much more brutal immigration policy than Trump ever had. He sounded like one of these modern right-wing authoritarian fascists.
Called for mass deportations.
So do you think
and to lock down the entire he called to lock down the entire southern border, and he wanted more isolationism with NAFTA actually rather than global trade, which was interesting.
Well, still, Andrew, before you ask, I still wanted to answer my question as to what politician that's like calling Trump a fascist is inciting these far left people, or far left people are seeing inspiration from.
It's not just them. So how this works is,
but we're talking about the politicians, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that you would.
Well, actually, sure. In fact, I'll tell you what. Just name a Democrat. Let's play a game.
Okay,
name the
Chuck
Democrat.
Schumer.
I'll find the quote. Okay. Chuck Schumer calling Trump or right wingers fascist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, do you think calling somebody a fascist is a call to violence, or do you think it is inflammatory rhetoric that should be condemned?
I think it depends on the context in which it's used.
Do you think it's good to kill Hitler?
But hang on.
I don't know. Hitler did it. So would you say that Hitler's good?
He's got you there, John.
Yeah, well, I guess so. I mean, on a very.
I'm leaving it open.
I think there's certainly a lot of people who think that is very good to kill Hitler. If Hitler was still around and committing genocide, then that would be a good action to take in order to ensure the safety of the world.
Okay,
and when
so
you have mainstream.
I'm sorry.
Media pundits,
hang on, I just want to answer, and because you Soy Pills being good faith, I'll be good faith back. You are actually correct in one sense that Schumer hasn't directly used the word fascist. He says instead that he's an authoritarian here to take all your rights.
So, to be clear, I wasn't saying that I assumed that he had called him a fascist, if anything. I'm asking you, can you demonstrate how Chuck Schumer calling him a fascist is the inspiration for these far left people who hate Chuck Schumer?
If it was just Chuck Schumer rather than the political party itself saying things like, let me give you an example, the unison of Trump is a danger to our democracy, calling for his impeachment consistently and constantly. Why is he a threat to democracy? Right now, we have Gavin Newsom, for instance, who's saying that he's going to overstay the election, that his entire purpose is to have a third term. He's coming to take all of your rights. This is a unison party message.
Yeah, and I agree with all of this, by the way. But to be clear, you're saying that this is an explicit call to violence, despite all the people saying that this is an electoral solution that we have?
No, let's untangle the argument. Because there's multiple stages to it. So step one, that in and of itself would not be considered a call to violence as such. However, what it's trying to do is energize the base towards in the street protest and move them towards the idea that Trump is here to take all of your rights, take everything away from you. He's an authoritarian. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. He's all of these various things. That then goes down to the governor level, goes down even to the state level, and it goes to the pundits on MSNBC, CNN. They begin to regurgitate the same exact things. And yes, the idea is to motivate these people who have a very mentally ill base to go out and conduct political violence. It does seem to translate that way. Every time I see them out in the street, they seem to be doing violent shit. I don't know what to tell you. 2020, the summer of love, they were out there doing violent shit. The protest we just covered that happened in California, out there doing a bunch of violent shit. The Portland protest that we just covered. Also doing violent shit, fighting in the streets. They were trying to provoke the cops. It's like, what do you want me to do? Every time I look at the street and there's a bunch of leftist protesters, that seems to be accompanied by a bunch of fucking violence and the media saying, it's fine, it's good, it's all good.
My question is, let's just assume for a second that there was a fascist and a bunch of people who were fighting against this fascist had a mentally ill base. Would it then be irresponsible of them to accurately describe their opponent as fascist, because ultimately some of the most mentally ill and fringe people on that base would then go and commit violence that you think is bad? Or how would one deal with that if they truly didn't believe that their opponent was that?
So contextually, right, if it's the case, there's an actual Nazi who's in office, okay, who is trying to bring back the Third Reich, and it just so happens that you're motivating your base against an actual Nazi, and some of them are mentally ill. Yes, of course, there wouldn't be any problem with that. The whole point then would be to overthrow, though, wouldn't it? Wouldn't the whole point of that be? Hang on. Wouldn't the whole point of that be that you're motivating this base against this Nazi to do what? Good things to him? Do you want him to do good things to him? Like, what do you want him to do to him?
If you truly thought that there was no possible way for you to do this through the system, then yeah, why would you be out there getting people to canvass? Why would you be out there telling people, go register to vote? Why would you do anything other than, hey, we need to mobilize our little infiltration?
Hang on, here's the thing that's really funny is, like, yes, there's one branch that does that, and then there's other branches which seem to motivate people to shoot political commentators, take shots at the president of the United States, beat people in the streets, set cars on fire, set buildings on fire, and are very unapologetic about it, and are continuing to organize yet another No King's Day nationally to do even more of this shit. So the thing is like, again, I'm going to throw this back to you because I answered in good faith. Yes, of course you would motivate your population, but motivate them to do what? You're not going to be motivating them to do good things to the Nazi in charge, are you?
Well, to be clear,
let him
again,
answer.
This is something that I agree with most of the politicians in the way that they're classifying Trump as a fascist. I think Nazi is obviously too far. He's not that, but calling him.
Well, they're not going to do good things to the fascists, right?
And I'm saying, look, guys, if I thought this was a non-electoral solution, there was no electoral solution here, that you had absolutely no other option, kind of like what Trump did in January 6th and saying, hey, your country failed you, Mike Pence failed you. I would say, yeah, maybe we should go do a violence, but obviously I don't think we're there yet. I wouldn't be having this debate if I thought the only option was violence. So when we look at like the BLM stuff, and we look at the way the Democratic politicians, whether it's Newsom, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and say things like, I mean, I have a quote here. He says, there's no place for violence. There's no place for looting or destroying property or burning churches or destroying businesses, et cetera, constantly condemning this. I don't understand how you can say, well, by accurately describing this person the way that they believe him to be, and then saying also don't commit violence, we can win this electorally. This is somehow necessarily going to result in violence only because there are, I guess, a disproportionate amount of mentally ill people on the left wing. It doesn't particularly make sense.
I'm sorry. Aren't you a person who believes in the idea of dog whistles?
Yeah, but it's not a dog whistle. It's
okay, so hang on.
I think this person's a
so you, obviously, politicians aren't going to come out directly and go, hey, guys, you need to start killing right-wing politicians, and you need to start killing right-wing political commentators.
Priest, right?
Yeah, they would say things instead like, this person is trying to,
I don't know, like hell. I mean, we can use the same rhetoric that you're saying.
I'll engage with you. Let me finish the point.
I've hung on for the past like 20
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Almost done, bro. Almost done. So, like, saying things like, oh, Donald Trump is trying to mobilize the military so that he can declare martial law and exist for a third term. Yeah, that's not really in the domain, I think, anymore of like, we're just trying to motivate our political base to get out there and get charged to vote him out. How do you vote? How do you vote a person out who you're claiming is trying to stay for an additional term by using the military? How do you do that? You don't do it. So the whole point is, yes, I think that there's a bit of dog whistling going on there of, hey, he's an authoritarian fascist who's trying to overstay his welcome in the Oval Office, and he's prepared to use the military to put you down. So we need to really get these guys because they're a bunch of fascist Nazis. That's very much what the call is right now.
Yeah, yes. I think if they said that was the only thing that's going to happen, I think saying he may try is much different. But I would agree that if they said Donald Trump will definitely 100% do this, and he's not going to leave office, he's going to use the military to crack down, I would say, yeah,
that's what Newsom's saying.
No, he's not saying that's exactly
No, he's not.
definitely. He's saying there's a good
Oh,
chance it will
come
happen.
on, man.
The difference being that there's a lot.
I'm
of avenues-
87.5% sure that
Can I
he's a
please-
Nazi
can I
who's
please-
trying to take
can I please
power.
respond? Can I please respond? So the difference being that there's all of these other avenues that we've explored that Trump is also trying to
Oh,
explore that may
man.
not involve the military, such as changing the 22nd Amendment or running as vice president and then having JD Vance step down. He's talking about all sorts of other avenues, and it's like, okay, there's definitely this guy has demonstrated in the past that he does not want to leave office. He tried to, use false electors to stay for a third term, but we still defeated them electorally in that because the guardrails held, thank God. So saying that, oh, well, if this was the only option, maybe that could be potentially a dog whistle, but clearly all of these Democratic politicians are not operating under the assumption that violence is the only option.
Yeah, so I mean, what level of surety you would actually need Gavin Newsom to be like, hey, everybody, I'm 100% sure this Nazi's trying to overstay his stay in the Oval Office and use the military right now to suppress people. So what? What does he have to say to convince you that he means what he's saying?
I think if you
Can you
continue
provide
to
an
see
actual
left-wing
quote that
violence
you are
perpetuated
using?
against right-wingers,
I can
and
provide an entire video
left-wing
clip of
Democrat
this.
politicians refuse to condemn it and say, you know what, maybe this should happen more. I think that would be more of an indication of, yeah, they want more of this to happen. But at every single step, at every opportunity, they condemn this violence over and over and over.
Yeah,
again.
meanwhile, all the
Nothing wants to keep
influencers are
happening.
dancing after Charlie Kirk dies. We go to
Yeah,
TikTok
but
for the
notice how you
follow.
keep having
We
to
go to
deflect the
TikTok.
influencers and not
Well,
talk about the
how
actual
did-
politicians. and their
hang on
ideology
a
and their
second.
rhetoric.
Hang on a
Was a
second.
pivot.
Didn't I just tell you that this is a tiered system? I walked you through the
Yeah,
entire
I
argument, and
hold-
you
I hold
said, and
pretty
Soy,
low
hang on,
tiers
Soy,
at a much
Soy, you
lower-
said,
a much
you
lower
said,
regard
Soy,
for
I
politics.
largely agree with your assessment there. Those were your
I
exact
do
words.
largely agree, but again, when I bring up,
So I don't know what to tell you.
Left-wing politicians are overwhelmingly condemning this, and you say, "Well, these influencers with a much lower reach
Mhm.
aren't," and it's like, okay, well, are you going to address the fact that we're already talking about the inequality between the left and right?
Oh my God!
Now we
Politicians
have
are
to move
speaking
down
out
to
of
the-
both sides of their mouth. That's so
Can
crazy
you show
that a
me- can you show me-
politician
can you
that a
show me
politician
the-
on the one
Guys,
hand
guys,
says
guys,
I
guys,
condemn
over each other. Come on,
I condemn
Andrew.
the violence, but on the other hand, they go, oh, but wait a second, we're going to give you a place inside of this major metropolitan area to fucking riot. Oh, but we condemn the violence. It's like, what are you fucking talking about here, Soy?
Yeah, so you're setting up the idea that left-wing politicians giving permits and spaces for people to protest, which may turn violent at some point, is the same as them somehow
They let them take.
advocating and perpetuating
Andrew,
people shooting
finish.
politicians and pundits and shit. Which is
They
just
let him
completely
take over
Andrew,
an
let Soy finish.
entire
Andrew,
spot.
Andrew, let
he
Soy
was
finish.
finished. He was finished. You fucking idiot! Shut
I
up.
was
Now, by the way,
Oh, you
Soy.
finished. Okay.
So yeah, did you see that? You see how I was right, doing everything wrong, right, and you're a dumb
down,
mod.
he's a moderator.
So anyway,
He's just-
back to this, Soy, for you, just so that you understand, right? They took over an entire area of a city and called it Chaz Chop, said it was a neutral zone, declared it independent of the United States of America, and then
would
had
you-
an
would you
armed.
say that's
hang on,
like a
and then hang
downstream
on,
effect
hang on.
of left-wing,
Let me
like,
finish.
political speech,
let
or is
me
this
finish.
like-
Yes,
like-
not only was it
Interesting.
not only was it downstream of that, but it was very clear that the politicians who were in charge of said city weren't going to do a fucking thing about it, while at the same time they were condemning violence. It's like, give me a
Okay.
fucking break with this shit.
Can you like?
Oh, wait, so
which-
it's
if I were to
interesting.
go
Wait,
and ask
Andrew,
some of
Andrew.
these like Chaz people, like who
give
inspired them to do their Chazing? Do you think it would be like a Hakeem Jeffries, a Chuck Schumer, a Joe Biden, the radical Democrat left that inspired them to make a little stupid fucking square of a city and have a lawless zone, which was then cracked down on? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Cracked
to say
down
that
on
this is
after
coming
how
from
many
the
weeks?
left-wing politicians. Now, you might say that there are some left-wing governors or like super ultra progressive, attorney generals in like maybe like what Portland or places like this that might actually agree with some of these crazy Antifa.
They don't just agree with them; they seem to be very assisting towards them.
Yeah, sure. Maybe even so. But the point is, we're
Like
talking
in
about
Portland,
like,
for
as a
instance-
totality of these parties. This
Yeah.
is not something that like Antifa is not aligned with the Democrats.
Yeah, you know, the
And
thing
I
is,
see
is,
there's a very strong ideological backing for
course.
Antifa and BLM in the Democrats. The Democrats champion the Black Lives Matter movement. What are you talking about? Like this is why
you
Kamala
notice how
Harris
you just
voted
jumped to the
Minnesota-
BLM thing, which is not what I'm talking about. I was talking about Antifa.
he
Of
said,
course,
well,
yeah,
he,
of course.
he
The
literally just said
Democrats-
BLM was highly ideologically driven by the
Right,
left. What do
I
you
agree
mean he's not
completely,
talking
and
about
I wasn't
BLM?
talking about that. But if you look at BLM and the way that the left-wing Democrat politicians were responding to it, completely condemning all of this violence, saying rioting is completely unacceptable. And
Is that why
perpetuating
Kamala Harris
specifically-
promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out the violent rioters? Like, I mean, come on.
I think that's the
are
closest
you
thing you can
serious?
get to maybe she's advocating for violence, or maybe like a Maxine
Maybe.
Waters saying you need to go get up in their faces. But then when you compare it to the totality of statements where she's saying violence is not okay, but maybe we should help people.
How
out
many
with
of
their
these
bail
left-wing
funds. It's very different.
organizations? How many of these left-wing organizations who are filled to the brim with attorneys back up all sorts of projects which are designed to bail out protesters, quote protesters, when they get cracked down on because they're breaking the law in the streets, and they pay their bail funds? NGOs will back up many of these organizations. I pointed this out in my last debate with Vince. I have a massive list of NGOs which we can go through who organized the No King's Day riots, and they were riots, and there were riots before those days. So the thing is like, I can show you the NGOs who helped organize this, and it's like to pretend that these people aren't working in unison with each other and aren't pushing towards violence. I think it's just crazy at this point. By the way,
hey, Andrew,
another hang on, almost done. Another narrative.
I've been hanging on for 30 minutes.
Another narrative. Well, hang on for one more minute. Hang on for one more minute. So the thing is like, it was also you guys, remember, and your side largely, that was trying to distance yourself from violence by pinning it on a right-wing raper. After Charlie Kirk was shot, almost the entire narrative of the influencer left and the legacy media, which is left-wing, was trying to do this. And they've done everything possible, in fact, to say, nope, we didn't do it. It had nothing to do with our rhetoric. And then less than a week later, right? Oh, go to Twitter right now. Right. Charlie Kirk's a fascist Nazi. It's a fascist Nazi.
To be clear, because I've never said that. If anything, I thought the Groyper thing was jumping the gun, to be clear. But Vince, go ahead.
Yeah. Andrew, how many people were arrested during the Los Angeles protests?
Which one?
The one from the summer in June of 2025.
I'm not sure.
Anti-ICE riots.
Yeah, I'm not sure the numbers.
It was over 400 arrests.
Mm-hmm.
So again, and when we pair that with Gavin Newsom's sentiment of, hey, we need you to peacefully protest, it doesn't seem like he's enabling it. It seems like he's actually, in fact, several people were arrested for felony charges like assault against police officers and for possessions of Molotov cocktails and a gun. Mm-hmm. So again, if this was, Gavin Newsom dog whistling, I would imagine we would expect far less arrests. And I remember actually in our previous debate where you said the cops were just standing around.
And we watched video proof
where they were not.
Yeah,
they were not just standing around.
Yeah,
and evidently they weren't, because they were
not only were they, but we showed the video and demonstrated, and you look like an idiot because we showed it.
Yeah, and
so
we
showed it.
You acknowledge that there were 400 arrests that were made by Los Angeles PD due to the protests, right?
Sure.
Okay, so then it wasn't that Gavin Newsom was standing down or allowing this to happen. It seems like they were very adamant in trying to make sure that those who were not peacefully protesting were being held accountable. Unlike Donald Trump, who ended up pardoning those who actually committed crimes.
Here's how this tended to work during those protests. If you actually assaulted officers or gave them a hard time, they would arrest your ass. That's true. Okay. But they largely were standing around and watching everybody burn shit to the fucking ground, including what happened in the overpasses there. As you saw police on either side with paramedics on standby in case one of these protesters might have accidentally hurt themselves, lobbing a fucking rock over onto a police car that they had just set on fire. They wanted to make sure that those guys would get the help that they fucking needed. But the thing is, what's really funny about it, if you attack the cops directly, they don't put up with that shit. That's true.
I think we need to be there's a lot of like discussion that's like very beyond the scope that I'm seeing from our opponents here, because we need to be very clear. The left makes a climate that allows this type of violence to be highly associated with them ideologically. Like, for instance, we have a whole bunch of factions of the left that have risen up. I can name countless examples. You just gave an example, the anti-ICE rights. That's very ideologically fundamental to the left right now. We have the BLM movements that was very ideologically backed by the left as well. We have the pro-Palestine faction of the left, which the left constantly has to cater to and has caused countless damages on college campuses. Yeah, pro-life journalists going and interviewing people and getting punched in the face. And you have our presidents being shot at, and you have our influencers dead. So it's like you need to have a very strong conviction to show that the party is very responsible by their ideological backing and their influence. And when you see bullets etched with Antifa slogans and that are largely perpetuated by Democrats who are calling Charlie Kirk fascist, I think it is very clear what is going on here. There's a great unison with these politically violent actions and the party. Ideologically backed political ideologies from the party, which is highly associated with these acts.
John,
We
I
could
guess
talk
I have to
about-
ask if you were to like, sorry, Vince, I'll let you go because I know I've been talking a lot. But like, if you were to like ask
No,
like
you-
an Antifa like rioter, one of these violent people, like, why do you think Charlie Kirk is a fascist? Do you think a single one of them would say it's because Joe Biden said so? It's because Gavin Newsom said so? It's because, and not these people are radicalized in their like little Marxist communist circles, and they read. I mean, you go to UC Berkeley, you should know this of all people because I know the people at UC Berkeley. They are learning this in like their little like hippie circles. This is not coming down from like Democrat politicians. Absolutely no one is being inspired by the Kamala Harris rhetoric on ICE.
Who does it come down to is in charge of these hippie circles?
Who's
How
in
do they?
charge of them?
How do the people in charge of those hippie circles? How does that information get disseminated to them?
Oh, this is going to get super anecdotal for me, but when I encounter these people, it's all people that talk about theory and reading communist manifestos and stuff. But if you want to say that this is somehow perpetuated by left-wing politicians, I don't really see evidence for that. But
wait a second.
my-
I'm just following your line. These people they do have organizers. You agree that that's true?
well, not
Where-
really Antifa, but
Yeah, they really do. In fact, I can give you one of the organizers who ran a project, which is probably where you get a lot of your stats from. And he said on camera, and I have a clip here, he literally says that he's Antifa and that Antifa does organize. So I don't know where
Well,
you guys
Antifa
are coming
organizers,
up
I
with
really
that.
hate the like Joe Biden, like it's just an idea, because I think that is a deflection. I mean, obviously they're groups of people and they have like a symbol that like unites them, but ultimately it's not some like big top-down organization with like it's the head of Antifa. It's you get these little pockets of people that all kind of agree, read similar stuff, and decide to go to the bench.
These
Shapiro
think
protest
the
or
same-
whatever.
Exactly.
the
The
same
universities
thing- yeah.
here, the universities are a hub for this type of ideological backing from people. Where sure, the Marxists come together at universities, which is completely dominated by the left. So that is like another form of mainstream left-wing politics that is going into the educational system and is influencing people to become radicalized. And so it's like, if I asked an Antifa, like, why did you shoot Charlie Kirk? The answer is probably not going to be because Joe Biden told me so. But when you take a look at the climate that has been created by the left, it has made it such that you are predisposed to believe Charlie Kirk is a fascist, to believe that all these people on the right really want to cause you harm, are threats to democracy, are Nazis, are Hitler, to the point where you are going to take actions because you are convinced by the social constructivist narratives that the left constantly perpetuates. And you think that when you commit an action in the name of social justice, that it is a good action, no matter what law you're violating, no matter what you're doing. So you can choose what laws to obey because it is in the name of some arbitrary social justice. All of this is under the umbrella of the left wing, who has created these ideologicals, these influences that have very predisposed people to commit these acts.
I guess the problem
can
I'm
I-
having is just like completely asymmetrical analysis where we can look at the left and say, yes, they condemn it totally. Yes, they arrest and punish these people. And yes, they say absolutely nothing that would indicate that doing this is okay. But when the right wing calls people fascists or Marxists or any of these other things and commits political terrorism, that is a direct downstream of
It's because
the
of
policy of
PTSD.
the right
It's
wing.
PTSD.
It's fringe.
What
It's right wing. They
Gee,
condemn
what are
it
they
every
arresting
time.
all these
And
people
when they
for?
pardon
Are they
people,
arresting them
that's
for
somehow-
political violence, Sawyer?
We're
arresting
getting
them for?
we're getting way out of the
Right,
framework
because
of the
they
debate
don't
here.
want it
Whatever.
to happen. And
Because
so
well,
they're doing these people
all right,
for
so
doing
you're
it.
saying that a bunch of left wingers are conducting a bunch of violence and have to be arrested? Is that what you're saying, Zoe?
I'm saying that yes, that left wingers
Oh, yes.
do political violence. So
Yes,
whenever,
they sure
that
do.
doesn't
And they
happen.
and would you say that that's been kind of an ongoing theme here recently? And I mean, he just said 400 of them had to be arrested for conducting violence in California
Wrong.
recently.
Not
No.
necessarily correct.
what I
That's
remember
not,
too
no, hold on.
is-
Oh, no,
Hold on.
he
Wait,
just
wait,
they're
hold on.
cracking
No,
down
hold
on this
on.
behavior.
I can explain.
Okay, I can't wait. I think we
Nearly
lost
400
Vince.
arrests.
Frozen up a little bit.
Oh, can you
I
hear
think
me
we
back?
lost Vince.
Oh, yep.
Hold on.
We
Can
can
you
hear
hear me?
All right. Yep.
Okay.
You're good.
So it said the vast majority of arrests have been for failing to leave the area in defiance of requests from law enforcement. So essentially staying out and they're telling them to move and they didn't move and they got arrested. The other ones were more serious charges, and it was a handful, not a whole lot of them, but it was a handful of more serious charges, including for assault against police officers and then possession of a Molotov and cocktail. So again,
So
when we
violence?
talk about, but the thing that's really
Just the
rich, like
vast
Soy Pill
majority for
said,
not leaving an area, so no, not violence.
the rest.
No,
the
he
wild
just- he
thing
just-
about
he just
this-
cited violence.
Guys, let Vince finish. Let
Yeah,
Vince
the wild
finish.
thing about this to me is it's exactly like Soy Pill said. Y'all are providing numerous examples of the left, and that's fair, fine. Let me just provide a few here, because we had the 2024 election that happened last year, and there were numerous calls made into certain election and polling places. We also saw 2025 where the CDC shooter was all upset about the COVID-19 shot that he had gotten, and he didn't like. He thought he was melting his brain or whatever it was. We also had the 2022 Buffalo seat, and that's right there exactly what I said in my opening statement. I'm glad you mentioned that, Andrew, because I believe in my opening statement I said when it's the left will openly condemn that violence. They say, hey, there's no place in there. When there was a protest, they'll say, hey, there's no place for this violence. But when the right does it, they then say, hey, guess what? It's because of mental illness, which is what I said. Or they'll say it's because of PTSD, but they'll never own their rhetoric that may have led up to that. Because of COVID-19
that's really
and anti.
Yeah. Oh, you just cut out again.
Oh,
sorry,
we
man.
lost Vince again. All right, well, Andrew,
I've got really bad internet,
so I'm smiting you for lying, by the way. But anyway, so where were we? Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that we can point to certain rhetoric that may have led these mentally deranged people on the right go towards these particular acts. We talked about, for example, that one person who talked about the COVID-19 shot. We've seen where the Buffalo shooter, for example, had anti-immigration sentiment, and we can talk about all that. And whereas on the left, we'll sit here when we have someone that does these things, condemn those particular violent actors. But on the right, they immediately, for example, we just saw the Mormon incident where the guy drove the truck through the church. And what was the first thing that everybody said? Instead of saying, hey, maybe our rhetoric is pretty bad, they go, hey, he's suffering from PTSD. It's not our rhetoric. Our rhetoric has nothing to do with it.
Was Christianity is under attack, and this is the left wing doing this. Then they said, once they realized it was a MAGA guy, that it was not.
Exactly.
Well, the thing is that my understanding is that the entire Mormon thing happened because of a girl that he was interested in, and they broke up. And yes, the guy was crazy. And so this is the thing that's really funny. So I'll just be very unequivocal with this, just like I was with Destiny. I condemn all acts of political violence, right or left, period. Am I saying that there's never any such thing as incendiary rhetoric, which comes out of the right? Of course not. Am I saying that there's no such thing as people who say things which could trigger people to go do violent acts? Of course not. Am I even saying that there's a way to 100% avoid that and have speech? Of course not. Has nothing at all to do with this conversation about which side is doing this more. And so as we dive into this, we need to be very precise. Remember how I wanted to get these semantics in order, and you never want to fucking do that because you think it's a trap. You think it's a trick. Even though I keep trying to just tell you it's a great way to avoid equivocation. And Vince, if you do it more, we wouldn't have to run into this so much. So the thing is here that's interesting, I'm willing to go case by case. It could be the case.
Except for Darrell Brooks.
It could be the case. I told you I was willing to go into that case as well. I was just explaining to you that I was making comparison contrast there about why it would be important for us to utilize studies the correct way by making correct classifications we could agree to. Again, semantics, very simple. The thing that's really interesting here is like, if you give me a case and it's very clear that this was motivated by the right, and there's compelling, significant evidence that it was, my side always universally condemns that, by the way. And Charlie Kirk universally condemned that, by the way. We always condemn it. We're always saying, I was the one on the Piers Morgan panel saying, of course, I condemn this type of violence. It was the representation for your side, the Coomer gremlin, who just couldn't quite bring himself to say, probably wasn't a great idea that you took a shot at Trump and killed Charlie Kirk. It was him. So the thing is like, we can't, hang on.
We're talking about our politicians. And,
we can't
really like to pivot on this.
You keep switching though. You keep switching between the two. You're doing kind of like the worst form of equivocation, because we start with me saying this works from the top down and you agree. So you've already agreed with me semantically that this is the case.
Pundits are way lower on that hierarchy.
What would that have to do with the left or the right conducting more violence? Why would it need to be necessary that this is driven 100% by the top of the hierarchy, rather than it could be conducted by Antifa terror cells? It could be conducted by radicalization on site of college campuses. It could be conducted in all sorts of Discord groups, Telegram groups. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the top down. I don't think that the top-down rhetoric helps
for it. Then we need to look at one.
We're not just talking about that though. We're talking about who conducts more of it.
Right. So if we want to talk about who conducts more of it, and we really want to read through the CSIS study, I mean, we can talk about it. There's a reason why Like we can, but like it's going to be real boring. And the problem is at the end of it, you're either going to say, well, I don't agree with the methodology, and then not provide an alternative methodology that somehow parses through the numbers that you're satisfied with. And it's ultimately not going to get us anywhere because you're never going to say, well, the right does it
That
more.
is not how science works, Soy. Science does not work where you say, I have an experiment or some type of data collection here which is easily falsifiable and you have to replace it. That's not how that works. I don't need to give you alternatives to things that are bullshit.
The left does it
don't
more,
need
and your
to.
evidence is I can name a bunch of things and look at these videos, and when I say a study, you can poke holes in it.
You
and
remember
that's
how
totally fair.
earlier
That
you
is how
said
science works.
that the study
You have
is
to
not
give me either a
necessary for
better
the
study or better
demonstration?
methodology, or go through and parse through the cases used in this study and say this is how they all are classified under my methodology and how then the numbers would add up, and then show me that new graph. But if you can do neither of those things, I'm going to choose to actually use the study in the way that
Okay,
it
well,
works.
let's use
Non-biased.
let's use your own study.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
to make
let's
the
do
demonstration.
one in front of you.
Since
Yeah,
Trump
Maybe go
was
through one of the studies.
hang on, since Trump was reelected, this is according to Cato, the
That's
left
not
is
my
killed.
study.
Hey, it is. Shut
No,
up and let
it's
me
not.
finish. It
Yes,
is. I'm dude. If you
Oh,
shut up, I'll
let
show you.
Andrew.
The left has killed 2 times as many people, according to the CSIS. The
Okay.
one that you're referencing, the left-wing terrorism is at its worst in 30 years.
Yeah.
According
wait,
to the
wait,
CSIS.
Are you
Andrew.
talking about the little bar at the end where the left-wing terrorism has gone up by a little compared to the previous year, and then the right-wing bar
He's
is
cherry
still
picking.
extremely large?
He's cherry picking
Yeah,
that
you're looking
little
at the
tiny.
very last year that's not complete. Is that how we're going to just
I just told you that according
Yeah.
to Cato, the left's killed 2 times as many since Trump's election.
in the year since Trump's election? So you're only going to selectively look at 8 months, just to be clear. So to be clear, if your argument is
When the violence
the left is
has-
more
you mean-
the left
you mean
is
when the
more
violence has
violent in the
exploded?
past 7 months
Uh-huh.
exclusively, and we only look at that? Sure. Okay. I mean,
Okay, hang on. Wait a second.
demonstrably true.
Wait a second. When was it that the left became completely mobilized towards violence? Was it under fucking Biden or was it under somebody else, Soy? Who
You
else?
mean like when Trump was
Who?
2016?
Oh yeah, like you
First
mean
time,
under
or do you
Trump
mean
when
current?
they did mass protests before against Trump, and now we see the cycle repeating again
Well,
under
you're
Trump.
talking
The
about
most
BLM,
critical
and you're
term,
talking
the
about
most
freedom of
critical
love,
term
and
of
now you're
showing
only
this.
able to look at the you're like, okay, I'll use the stats, but only if I can pick out this very last bar of this last year, which
Soy.
I'll agree with. I'm saying, yeah, actually, this is true. I'm not contesting this study. I'm
Good.
agreeing. The left
Right.
has been more
Great.
violent in 2025, according to the study, in the very last year. Now, if we're talking about
Yeah.
exclusively
Got it.
that, I don't know which debate you signed up for, but I signed up for as a totality. And you
Okay,
can look-
hang on.
This is graph. I mean, I'll pull
This
it
is
up. for my
perfect.
audience. I can't show
Actually,
it for
this is
everyone.
perfect. This
But
is
it's pretty
perfect.
funny to look
Yeah,
at this and say, "Oh, yep, this is definitely a left-wing problem."
This is
But, I mean,
perfect.
And
I
this
don't know
is
if
the
you
funny
wanna-
thing
Yeah,
about
let's
this too.
finish our
This is the
exchange.
funny.
Are you saying-
This is the funny thing
This
about
girl will
this.
never let us
is
finish
that-
an exchange. Go ahead. Go ahead, Vince. I'm sure whatever you're about to say is important. Go
Well,
ahead.
Yeah, here we go. So now that you're here. So the issue here is that you're pointing to this, but I remember when Trump was in office the first time, and we do have
I don't know. I can't even understand the guy. So anyway, back to you, Soy Pill.
I'm sorry, my internet's garbage.
It is garbage.
We're
You know
gonna
what?
get back to
I'm gonna
Andrew
hang
and
on,
Soy,
Vince. I can actually help you with this. If you have mobile hotspot, turn your mobile hotspot on and shut
Yeah,
off
I'm gonna
your
turn that
internet.
on.
Yeah, turn your
Yeah,
mobile hotspot
I'm
on.
not-
So anyway, back
Yeah.
to this, Soy Pill. Actually, now we're getting somewhere. So this is actually great. So you made the concession. You agree. Left wing violence under Trump.
It's an agreement of objective reality. that
again,
you,
so-
by the way, have for the past
Are
hours.
we
that is
allowed
not
to fucking
true,
talk?
But now that you're looking at the
Okay.
last year, you're like, "Yep, it's true." So no, it's not a concession.
Okay.
So
So
let Andrew-
so anyway, I'll try to finish the point because you know you're about to get fucked here. So thing is on the CSIS, if you make the concession that it is the case that under Trump, left wing violence is much higher, killed 2 times as many people. You agree with all of this. You're making the concession there. The thing that's really funny is this is why I want to go through the methodology. Because if you make the concession that the left is far more violent right now, and I agree with you, all that's left is whether or not the left has been violent this entire time, which is why we need to go through the methodology of the rest of the study. You see how that works? Because if I can demonstrate in the rest of the study, you're classifying things wrong, but we can agree the left is more violent now. We've won the fucking debate, Soy.
To be clear, no, because the debate is not: is the left wing more violent in the current year? It is the who's more responsible?
Can you
for
even
political
repeat back what
violence?
I just said to you?
Second
Can you
of
even
all,
repeat
if you
back what I
if you
just
wanna
said?
Start on the axiom that we can concede that both of us agree with this study for this one particular year, but then we have to go back and meticulously pick it apart for all the other years. No, absolutely not.
Why
you're
not?
either accepting of the study or you're not.
What?
If you-
Wait, what?
So if
If
you're
I'm
looking at this last
accepting
year
of
and
the
you
study or
agree with
not.
it, if you agree with this study's methodology, then okay, I accept that you agree with this methodology, and then we can look and see that the right wing is overwhelmingly responsible for political violence as a whole for most of human history, or not human history, excuse me.
What?
But no, yeah, excuse me. That was a mistake.
So let me get
Most
it.
of the history of the study.
Yeah,
No, I don't mean that.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not going to be a pedant, but let me just
But, like,
help me out here.
I
If I
don't
had a study
understand
that
why you're
said,
able to cherry pick and then go through the methodology.
yeah, so if
and
I
not
had a,
use the methodology.
if I had a study and the study said that 100% of people who eat dog shit don't like how it tastes, right?
Mhm.
But 20% of white people or black people like how it tastes more than Mexican people.
Mhm.
Can we agree that both of us could look at the methodology of that study and agree 100% of people don't like eating dog shit? We've now agreed. But we could have great differences on the methodology for how we came to that 20% number. Do you agree that that's true?
I agree that that's true. Yes.
Okay,
But
so
then
then
why
hang
are
on,
you
hang
saying
on,
that
hang
it's
on, bro.
concession in the
I'm
last
trying
year
to
if you
explain,
don't
trying to
necessarily agree with the
explain,
methodology yet?
trying to explain. So when we go through the methodology of the classification, my concern there would be actually that it's discounted and it's even higher than they're claiming. But I'm willing to concede the point, even on the CSIS on the end. If you are, we can go through the classifications for all of these other years. And boy, if it turns out that they're not classifying these things correctly, then we can do some type of rough calculation to see which one of us is, or which side is actually conducting the most amount of political violence. And
Okay,
if
so
it's
to
the
be
case,
clear,
in
you're not
modernity,
agreeing with
yeah, go
this
ahead.
last year because it is a methodology you agree with, because any of the things that are demonstrated are true. It just happens to show that you're right. So if it showed the opposite, you would immediately discredit it. So why even call it a dissent?
What are you talking about? That has nothing to do with what I just said. Can you repeat
literally
back to
just
me?
said, I could
Can you repeat back to
concede-
me my
I guess what
position?
You said I could
Yeah.
concede on this point, but I actually think it's wrong. It just happened to be right in the correct way that I already agreed with. It was
So
my
then let's go through the
previous
study.
motion. So
Then-
why even
so
bother
then
pointing out that
because-
last year whatsoever?
Wait. Didn't I give you a qualifier? What was my qualifier? That I actually think that left-wing violence, even this year classified, is higher. But I would be willing to concede the point at least that in this year it's higher if you do. But we do need to go through the rest of it
Again,
for
it's not a
the
concession.
purpose of classification
Telling
to
for
make a determination if you agree with these classifications. Both of you are unwilling to do it because you don't believe the classifications. You don't believe them.
No, let's go. All right, we can do it, but I promise you by the end of this, you're going to say, well, because the classifications aren't the way I would do it, and I haven't done a comprehensive
I want to make sure that the classifications are how you would do it.
What I believe is true. Therefore, I discredit the study. I have no other option to show that the left wing is more violent. I just feel it's true because I've seen more of it, and that's the end of the debate. Like, it's going to be a huge waste of time, but let's do it. Let's go through it.
Yeah, and I want to mention this too, Soy Pill, before we jump into this. Andrew, in his opening statement, said all the claims will hinge on studies. Soy Pill will likely tell you the truth, and then and he'll bring up all these studies. He's saying all the claims will hinge on the studies. He's dragging us into talk about these particular studies when we're like,
The
hey,
things
look,
that
we
your
can talk
arguments
about
hinge
these
on?
studies.
The
We don't
things that
want
your
to talk about
argument
these
hinge
studies. The
on.
only person here that wants to talk about these studies is Andrew.
The only person here who wants to
Very
talk about
impressive.
your evidence is Andrew. That's crazy. It's almost like we're in a debate.
I want to
It's
talk
almost
about
like we're in a
it. I
debate
want
or
to
something,
the whole
Vince.
study and then get to the part where Andrew says, "Never mind, I don't like it," because I think it's going to be boring. But
No.
yeah, we can do it.
The conversation. I mean, the evidence.
Okay, well,
the
let's just
only
try it this
evidence
way. If you don't
that's
want to go through it, maybe we can just try it this way, Soy. Would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that there's going to be problems in the methodology of classification that you likely aren't going to agree with in that study? Yes or no?
I think every study is going to have at least something that I would say, I'm not sure about that, but I would still use it as an aggregate and showing what is happening, unless there was something major.
Why?
For example, if
Why
they
would
said
you do that? That's
Well, here,
insane.
Listen, Andrew, because I want to give you this. This is a concession, all right? If this study, and this doesn't do this, but if this study said right-wing violence includes something like Wahhabist Islamic terror attacks, even though that I would acknowledge why they might say that, because it's like, oh, well, because you can classify this as right.
I bet you it does, actually. I bet you it does include Muslim terror attacks. I
No,
bet you anything.
It actually has an entire other classification for this, if you read it, that is religious extremism that is not left or right. And there's a good reason for that, because you
Except
can't really say,
in
"Oh,
that
boy,
case,
all 3,000 people that died in
Except
9/11,
in that
that's
CS
right-wing violence," because that would be ridiculous.
actually, I believe in the CSIS, the way that they come up with right-wing affiliation is through religion. Just so you
There
know.
are parts of religious extremism that can be classified in the
Uh-huh.
study if you've read it, but not just
Let's go
religious
through-
extremism.
yeah, well,
which
this is
one
why-
other thing.
But
So,
this
for
is
example,
the here's
a
the
Christian nationalist
okay.
terrorist attack, like with Dylan Roof, would be a right-wing extremist, but the fucking 9/11 attacks wouldn't be. And that's why I'm saying, if there was a methodology that extreme that said, yep,
Mhm.
right-wing includes 9/11, yeah, I would say that's an incredibly flawed study that we can't take seriously. I don't think that exists in here, but if you want to point me to something
Have you
that is
read it?
that
Have you
flawed-
read that study? The truth?
Yes, I haven't read it word for word, but I have looked.
And what
through it.
does that mean though? Like how much of it have you read? How much? The
Well,
truth.
it's like 10 pages, so I felt like
Come on,
them.
dude.
I
Like
don't know
here's
what you want.
here's the thing, man. It's like this is where the disconnect is. How are we supposed to even have a good faith debate over which side is conducting the most amount of violence
Mhm.
if it's the case that the thing which you're banking on, which is evidence from these organizations, you haven't even read the very studies that you're banking on
So to be clear,
to
the things I
to
looked
show
out for,
to
'cause
show
I know
your
you bitched
position.
about it, were the methodology, how they classified the different types of violence, and specifically looked out for major egregious
You
things.
should
Like
bet your
the one
money you
I
haven't read
just
it.
mentioned.
You haven't
Like
read
the
it.
one I just mentioned, those are the things I did read through. Something I didn't read through would be, for
Wait,
example,
not
if
in
I
10
pulled out
pages. You didn't.
the
You
end
lying
notes.
sack of shit. You didn't
Take
read through it in
the
10
end
pages.
notes that
You
have
read
2
through the
pages.
methodology in 10 pages.
What?
You just said you read through the methodology in 10 fucking pages, dude. Give me a fucking
The
break.
entire thing is 10 pages. I'm not, if there's a more in-depth version of this study, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the domestic terrorism brief that has been released that describes the methodology, the classifications,
Yeah.
that shows the graphs. Yes.
Link it over. Let's take a
Sure.
look at it.
This is my problem with like debates like these where you like introduce a study and you use that as your key point of evidence, because we really haven't seen many evidence coming from our opponents other than this study. And all this study shows
This
is look
also
at this
one-to-one,
number.
or very closely
Look
mapped
at
on
this
by the
number
judge.
here.
Hold on.
And
Sorry,
I'm
let
almost
Kevin
finished with
jump
my
over.
point. Look at this number here. Oh, look, my study shows this number. Let's not look into the number. The number is just what it says. And no matter what the classifications are, the methodology, no matter what the situation is. Well, okay, so here's my proposition. When we're analyzing which party is more responsible, we have to see the ideological backing and the influence that the party has had over the actions and mental states that cause these people to commit these violent acts. And we should also look at the impact that they have had. And when you look throughout history, modern history, the largest scope and scale of political violence has occurred from the left. Your presidents aren't being shot at. Your influencers aren't being shot at. You don't have conservative college campuses that are throwing riots and protests.
By your own metrics, John, can you
anti-Biden
point to these people
protests.
that tried to shoot Trump as having downstream messages disseminated by like Democratic politicians? For example, Thomas Crooks, which I still don't know if we've even
Donated to
established
Act
that as-
Blue. He donated to Act Blue.
Did he not also?
Where did
like,
that show the
donate to
rhetoric?
Party and or vote for them? Like,
It
can you show
shows
that
that
the rhetoric
he's
is
in
like
support of
contributing to
the
this? He also had
Democratic Party.
plans to shoot Joe Biden. I don't know if you knew about that, but like the whole point
Okay,
is like,
so I
yeah.
can tell you the Charlie Kirk assassin etched in.
Well, hold on. Do
Antifa
you see? Okay, you
slogan.
just moved off the point completely, John. Please, like,
Pivoted
answer the question.
hard.
Because
I think when
agree
you
with
donate
the
to Act
definition.
Blue,
you
that's
have
a
to show how the
very-
ideology is influencing this. But if you're going to point to something like, "Hey, our presidents got shot at," it's like, okay, how is this happening? For example, if it was a Ukrainian person, I think there's someone pro-Ukrainian person was the one waiting for him on the golf course. I think there's a much closer connection that you could draw there, showing, hey, Trump doesn't care about Ukraine. He's a Russian puppet, blah, blah, blah. You could make a good argument there. But the Thomas Crooks one, like, I just don't see how that is somehow coming down.
The
from
argument is
Democrat
based off of
rhetoric.
the existence of the shootings rather than the non-existence of the shootings on the left. We have
Okay,
our people
again,
who are being
he was
shot
also
and
had
killed.
plans to shoot
Your
Joe
people aren't
Biden.
being
So
shot.
by that
Hold on.
same
So
logic, you could
let
say
John.
that. Okay.
Yeah, your people aren't being shot and killed. You have all these slogans that are etched into the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk.
Melissa
You have
Hortman?
Destiny,
Oh,
who's not
that's-
condemning the killing of Charlie Kirk. You have the guy who donated to Act Blue, who shot Donald Trump. I don't see Joe Biden being shot at. I don't see Kamala Harris being
You
shot
keep
at.
ignoring that guy that you were talking about who tried to shoot Donald Trump and missed and died was also planning to shoot Joe Biden. If you're going to keep bringing up that example, but again, if you're going to keep bringing up these minutia of examples in the recent, this even falls into specifically. I don't know if these three things, by the way, were well, not especially not the ones that didn't happen this year, but the ones that happened this year, as per the study, if they're classified as left-wing violence, are included and are showing that there is more left-wing death this year specifically. That's just true. That's based on this study. So if you want to stop there for some reason, yeah, okay, we can just talk about 2025. But
Again,
ultimately, we're looking at the totality, and you claim like
We don't,
well,
but
it's
we don't
because
want to
of the
just stop
fascism.
there.
It's because of the Nazism, and yet all these people were calling Trump Hitler fascist back in 2016. JD Vance was even doing it, and somehow this wasn't happening nearly to the same degree, and the right wing was much, much higher in those years. Why is this somehow now different in this
The
year?
protests were very violent when Hillary
Well,
Clinton was
because
denying
you
the
spent
results
4
of the
years
election.
under Joe Biden saying that you had thwarted a threat to democracy and ousted a Nazi from
why
office,
didn't it
and
happen
now
from
he
2016
sees
to
now he
2020?
sees power. Now he sees power again, right? Now he sees
Again,
power.
From
You're
2016 to
very much
2020.
missing the point of my statement. The point of my statement was to look at the scale and scope and impact of the things. The right has suffered more significant losses, damages, and impact that has been perpetuated by those with close ties to the left. And so, like, I didn't just cite the shootings of Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk. That's why I also cited the riots, which again caused over $2 billion of damages, you had dozens
Which
of
again,
people killed. You have
connect necessarily
officers
to
who
the
are
ideology
damaged.
because you'd have to show that every
Black
single
Lives
one of
Matter
those
was
dollars
not
that
fundamental
perpetuated and
to
damaged
liberal
are directly
ideology.
tied to BLM and trying to do a political movement, and not a bunch of rioters doing stuff to do fucking rioting for no reason. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that none of this was because of BLM ideology. There were plenty of people that were like, I think specifically, if you look at the police station burning down, that's probably political violence. I doubt those people were just burning random fucking
Okay, what do
buildings
you think about
down.
the
You're just
Minnesota Freedom
grouping
Fund?
all
No,
of this
man,
together.
they
What do
just
you
wanted
think
to
of
loot the
Minnesota Freedom
vending
Fund?
machines, bro. They just wanted to loot the vending machines, you know.
in the
What
police
do you think about
station?
Alexandria
The police station.
Ocasio-Cortez talking about social justice when all these Antifa and BLM riots are going on? Like, what does that say?
So I've got a few statements from
commit
Kamala Harris.
violence.
For example, by the way, so when that whole incident happened with the attempt on Trump's life, Kamala Harris said, "I'm deeply disturbed by the possible assassination to perform President Trump today. As we gather the facts, I will be clear. I condemn political violence. We all must do our part to ensure that this incident does not lead to more violence." Now,
Vince,
we
did
already
you look at
know
the
Andrew
camera?
Wilson has
Oh,
already
dog
said
whistle.
that these are dog whistles. So I'm sure that this won't be satisfactory. But there was also when she made a statement regarding the Charlie Kirk incident. She said, "Let me be clear. Political violence has no place in America. I condemn this act, and we all must work together to ensure this does not lead to more violence." So again, when we talk about the Charlie Kirk incident, we talk about President Trump. We could talk about I think there were
Oh, no,
I
we
lost
lost
it
it
again.
again.
But
I could look for him
Fucking
and see.
deep state, man.
Yeah, I'm working as best as I can with what I got. So excuse me if the internet goes out.
It's
tried my
better.
hotspot, it's not
I
He's
mean,
gonna
it's
try
better
that.
than it was. The thing is like the only frustrating thing is I want to hear what you're saying, and you
No, I
cut,
appreciate that.
you cut in and out. So
You should type out every statement before you say it. So as soon as you cut
But
out,
no,
make
so
up all
there's
your-
several different bits of the where you see Kamala Harris and numerous other high-ranking profile Democrats again condemning these things.
okay, so Andrew Wilson did talk about the dog whistles. I do think there's a lot of that involved, but it's not just the dog whistles, right? You also are responsible for the climate that you create that causes these things. The difference between Democrats and Republicans is that when George Floyd died, you caused all these riots. When Charlie Kirk died, we hosted prayer vigils and that called for peace. When
Yeah,
you
because
have,
ultimately you
Kamala
guys have
Harris,
actually
when you have-
nothing to be
I'm
Hold
upset
on,
almost
about.
hold
finished.
on.
When you have
So-
Kamala Harris raising bails for these violent rioters, the Minnesota Freedom Fund, you should look it up. When you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying that we should respect social justice, when you have people standing in front of fires calling arson and the riots mostly peaceful, and you have all these CNN pundits, MSNBC pundits saying all these things, you're very responsible for the ongoing political climate that causes people to engage in actions of this sort. And I think it's very clear that when we have these cases, you can't just bypass it by saying Kamala Harris condemned it, because Kamala Harris also bailed out defendants who were guilty of these violent crimes.
I'm actually curious, like just on that one thing specifically, and this is not a gotcha. If you could show me specifically,
that means
the
it's a
people that
gotcha,
she was-
by the way.
No, I'm
Don't listen to
serious.
his
Like, if you
bullshit
could show me
lies.
specifically that she's like saying, "Here's the bail fund for someone who like committed an illegal act," and like in the same way, I would say I don't think these things are proportional, but they are very similar. That Donald Trump would pardon someone who like did seditious conspiracy.
I've got the
I
tweet.
think that bailing out. No, I know she retweeted it, but like, I want to know like the crime specifically that these people did. Because if it was like what Vince was talking about in LA, and hey, they got arrested or whatever for not leaving an area, I don't think that is equal to saying that this person is endorsing violence. But if you're paying for the bail of someone who burned down a police car or some shit like that, I could say that there's a okay argument there. I think the problem is here that you're saying, I mean, you said this in your opening, John, that the right always condemns this. The right doesn't participate in this at all. And I just think this is so ridiculous. I mean, to be fair, I know Andrew did say that, yeah, obviously the right's going to be part of some, crazy rhetoric or whatever. But every time we show you an example of a right winger, like, for example, this is a Donald Trump quote. If he says, "It is the enemy from within. They're very dangerous. They're Marxists, they're communists and fascists. They're dangerous for our country." Speaking about like the Democrats, right? Like this is somehow not at all responsible for any right-wing violence committed against the people who he's condemning completely as the totality. He's grouping this not as these small left-wing fringe people like you try to say when it's right-wing. He says it's the Democratic Party. Stephen Miller says the Democratic Party is the party of extremists. And somehow this is not at all responsible for not toning down the temperature.
It doesn't look. I haven't actually seen.
Analysis.
I haven't actually
Show me an
seen.
example.
Yeah, show me the example of the links between that rhetoric and any of this so-called right-wing political violence. You can't. Not only that, just to refute this easily, Kamala Harris in October 2024 said that Donald Trump's a fascist during a CNN town hall, stating his actions and rhetoric echoed fascist leaders. She reiterated this in her speeches, linking it to his admiration for authoritarian figures, Hitler. All right. This is what she was claiming. So this is the woman who's running for president, and she's your party leader at this point, right? Your party's leader.
Yeah,
she's running for president.
Tied to this, please.
So the thing is like,
well, no, I'm using the same standard.
Of course.
To me. Can you show me the violence tied to that?
Hey, fascist, catch.
Okay, so again, so you think this woman
Hey,
was
fascist,
this
catch.
person who shot Charlie Kirk was inspired by Kamala Harris saying that Trump was a fascist?
I think that the totality of the Democrat machine is working in unison for the message that Donald Trump and the right wing are a bunch of Nazi fascists, and that, yes, she contributed to that rhetoric greatly. And I don't see the same thing on the right at all. I don't see a unified message in the party saying that left wingers are a bunch of evil fascists who are just trying to kill everybody. That's not what I see. What I see instead is I see on the right, they condemn political violence basically always. I don't see the fractional groups. I don't see the fractional groups like you do with Antifa.
Here,
things
I
like
got a
this,
few.
who are shut up. Let me finish. Who are doing these cell organizations for violence, who are linked to NGOs, who many of these NGOs are also donors to the DNC. So on the one hand, they're funding the riots, and on the other hand, they're also funding the DNC. It's
All right,
crazy.
clear,
How does that work?
I mean, if we still haven't gone through the CSIS, but if you want to talk about like small unit cells of right-wing violent terror, like the Boogaloo Boys, like the 3% Michigan Militia, like the Proud Boys, like the people who
Let's get
planned
into
the
all of
seditious
them.
conspiracy on January 6th, I think it's kind of weird that we're running away and saying this doesn't exist.
Let's
on the
start.
right.
Well, let's
When
start with the
Donald
Proud
Trump can
Boys.
say something
What
like,
terrorism
Proud
did the Proud
Boys
Boys do?
stand
What
back and
terrorism
stand
did the
by
Proud Boys?
because he can't fucking
What
condemn them. I think that's
terrorism did the
insane.
Proud Boys do? What?
What, trying to overthrow the government and
No,
kidnap
no,
politicians
no,
on
no,
January
no, no,
6th?
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
seditious conspiracy.
Before,
yeah.
hang on. Before January 6th, these people were allocated by Democrats as being some sort of like domestic terror cell, that they were evil right-wing extremists. What did they do? Except beat up Antifa members who were showing up, who were showing, because what I'm showing you, because I'm showing you something important. What's important is that long before J6, and Gavin McInnes starts the Proud Boys, okay, and what they were, the Proud Boys were doing everything they could to stop Antifa from beating people in the fucking streets, and they they actually did a pretty good. Hang on, let me finish, bro. Because otherwise they were threatening to put him in prison.
No, it was because they got too racist and extreme for him, and even he couldn't handle it.
No, it's because there was political pressure which was put on Gavin. I know Gavin. Do you?
No, I don't know Gavin.
Yeah, I do. And what happened there, I have a whole interview about it. You can go watch it on the Crucible. Okay. And so the thing is like, look, that's not what happened at all. What happened is there was a great amount of political pressure which was put on McInnes, trying to say that he was a terrorist, and that's what they were trying to move towards with leftist rhetoric. So and he was getting
stuck around during
he was getting deplatformed. Hang on, he was getting deplatformed everywhere. And for what? All the Proud Boys did was protect people from Antifa fucking lunatics. It's all they did.
Interesting way of framing it, considering I could say, well, all the Antifa was doing was protecting the other people from the crazy white supremacist Proud Boys. But in reality, you've got two pretty.
They were actually attacking. Look at what happened in New York. No, that's not what happened. Look at what happened in New York. They were attacking random people.
Great things, you know, like this.
Do you realize that in a fight you usually have initiators, you have aggressors? It's true you can have mutual combat, but in the cases that I saw with Proud Boys, it was not mutual. It was not. No, it wasn't just videos. It's official. There's official reports on it, like what happened in New York. They were attacked and defended themselves. They got arrested because they won. Okay. That's it. They just won. Like they won the fight, and so they get arrested.
That's crazy about all the Proud Boys and all the violence they've ever committed.
Show me yours. Show me yours. And
my evidence is that they committed fucking seditious conspiracy.
Oh, well, that's not. They're all pardoned for it, fucker. They're all pardoned for it, fucker.
Yeah, they all got pardoned, which I believe is an endorsement for them to do something like that.
Well, I think what it is that there was a witch hunt that was going on, and once the president came in,
they texted each other. Make no mistake, we did this. It's the most dead to rights fucking. They did this shit.
They did what?
Planned to overthrow the fucking government.
No, they didn't plan to overthrow the government. It's ridiculous.
I know they suck because they're fucking lame.
They planned to overthrow the government, and not only that,
all right, guys, we're gonna go in there and walk in the lines.
And let me point this out to you so that you note, they were all pardoned. You got nothing. And you can't
Oh.
point to anything pre J6 either that they actually did wrong.
Well,
and
I
yet they're
didn't
considered
tell
a
you that
violent,
whether or not
right?
the Proud Boys
So
were violent
hang on,
in
you used them
J6.
as an
I think
example.
it's
Yes, you
pretty
did,
fucking
fucker.
bad, though.
You
They
used
got
them as
indicted
an
and convicted
example of
for
a right-wing group.
conspiracy. And your only defense against that is,
Mhm.
well, the guy who told them and wanted them to go do that said that it's okay that they did that. So you have nothing.
What
As
was
if
his
the
name?
conviction was like some crazy witch hunt when we have text messages from
Yeah.
them saying, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing
Yeah,
the crime.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? And this is what's really funny. Those text messages, one, in context, actually don't say that. And two, to go through this, these guys were pardoned for anything which would have been considered criminal on J6. Not only that, let's point out that there was left-wing groups who were trying to label them, including the ADL, as being a racist domestic terror group before they were ever doing anything wrong. Most of the groups that you just cited, Boogaloo Boys, there was Oath Keepers, Proud Boys. Most of these guys never did a fucking thing wrong, and the left was already claiming that they were domestic terrorists and this type of thing. So you're just lying through your teeth, and you get the timelines
so
all
when
botched.
when they beat up people and do terrorism, it's always because the other people did it to them first. And I know this because I saw videos of it, just to be clear.
Show me example to the contrary, then, fucker.
No, you have
Show
to
me an
affirm to me.
example to the
when
contrary.
I have a study here that's claiming that some of these people, because you can go through the methodology, I bet you'd be really upset. And this is why I really didn't want to pick through it. It mentions the Boogaloo Boys. It mentions
I'm sure it
the Proud Boys.
does.
I bet you'd be like, well, they've never done anything violent, but I would need to show something. You would need to show me that these people are not committing an act of terrorism. You'd have to show me some sort of thing that every single time they've been arrested for violence, it's always self-defense. And if otherwise, I just have no reason to believe that, like, oh, well, I'm saying that these terrorist groups aren't terrorist groups. Therefore, the study is invalid.
No, I'm saying that the
I just-
methodology for the study that you didn't even read, you gave me a 10-page pamphlet, which sources all of the actual supporting material at the end of it, right? You didn't even fucking read it. You still don't even want to go through the actual methodology because you're concerned that it's going to demonstrate. You're concerned that it's going to demonstrate that you and I both know the same thing, that most of these things which are classified as right-wing violence, you wouldn't agree with. And so the thing is so funny here is like, and even then, even if I granted this to you, the funniest part of all of this is how fucked your timeline is. How are these people going to go after clubs like the Proud Boys and things like this, the Oath Keepers, before they ever did anything wrong and preemptively labeled them as terror groups? And then suddenly, of course, J6 happened. We always knew it, guys. We always knew it.
I just brought the absolute worst thing they've ever done out, and now you're claiming they've never done anything violent except for self.
What, the worst thing that you mean that they were pardoned for?
I mean, you've seen a bunch of videos, so
the worst thing that they were pardoned for.
The worst thing they were pardoned for, yeah.
They were pardoned for it.
Oh yeah, I like how you're smugly like, gotcha, dude. The guy who told you to go do it, pardon them. Like that's kind of the whole issue we have.
Wait a second. I'm really confused. What were the Proud Boys pardoned for J6? Can you have false convictions which you are pardoned for by the chief law enforcement officer, for instance? Is that
oh my god?
Corrupt pardons, and I would agree.
Is that why they have pardon power?
Pardons, I'd say some of those are corrupt.
They have pardon. They have pardon power for a reason. It's specifically to stop when there are witch hunts like this.
I want to say this. I want to say this.
My authoritarian leader is allowed to pardon anyone for anything if it helps him out.
Oh yeah.
Let Vince go. He hasn't spoken in a while.
Yeah. Here's the crazy thing I'm hearing about this. Right, is so we have two contrasting things happening right now. We have Gavin Newsom, who, when the protests happened, said, I condemn them. It should be peaceful. And they were arrested. They were not released. They were arrested. Now, they may have been released on bond, but for various different
doing violent crimes against police officers.
No, I'm not done talking, Andrew. I know. I'm glad. But see, here's the crazy thing about this is as Andrew's laughing, he doesn't realize that there's other contrast to this, which is Donald Trump, who has not condemned, quite frankly, the Jan 6 things. And even if he did, it's contrasted by the fact that he actually pardoned them. So if he actually cared about that, and he did care about political violence on his side, then he would probably let the justice system work its way through. But we know that Donald Trump doesn't really care. In fact, he's actually called Kamala Harris a fascist, a communist, a Marxist. We've seen Stephen Miller saying the same thing, echoing the same thing. Yet I haven't heard anybody mention anything about Donald Trump saying those words. Because it's okay when the right does it, but when the left does it, somehow now it's all sorts of crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
So you have
lots of lies. There's lots of lies there. I mean, first of all,
where's the lies?
You said he didn't condemn it. January 7th, he released a statement saying, I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem.
So outraged
I
he pardoned
immediately
everybody.
deployed
That
the
makes
National
sense.
Guard.
I thought he
federal
didn't
law
condemn him
enforcement
5 seconds ago. You lying
Guys,
fuck.
guys, both of you, let John Paul finish.
Is that condemning? Is that condemning?
I don't call it
violence?
condemning if he ends up, and I don't call it condemning if he ends up after the fact pardoning.
Okay, do you know how much violence actually was on January 6th? Do you know how much violence actually was there?
There was
there's
probably, I
six
think there was over
violence.
100 people that were
Six full
charged.
violence.
There was about 170 people charged with assaulting a law enforcement officer.
Were any of them charged with
It was
insurrection, fuckhead?
160.
Nope. It was
No,
sedition.
none of them were charged with insurrection, fuckhead. Not a single one.
170 people were
No
charged with
one's-
assaulting.
Were
law
there any
enforcement
of them
officers.
charged with
Andrew, you're
insurrection?
boxing shadows right now. No one's talking about
Yeah, yes.
insurrection.
Yes,
All of them
that's
already
what you guys
served.
just said. You just said it was a seditious insurrection 5 seconds
No, I
ago.
said seditious conspiracy. That's not the same thing. as
Oh, so
sedition.
it wasn't an insurrection?
I said it was seditious
So
conspiracy.
I just want to be clear then, it wasn't an insurrection?
I'd say that any
I
definition.
don't know what
that
this
I
has
use
to do with
insurrection,
any of the
you won't get
I just
conversation.
want to make
Don't
sure
say
that we're
no.
clear.
I want to make sure.
Was
that
it
this
an
has nothing to do
insurrection
with
or
the
not?
conversation.
No,
Was
it
it
was a
an
seditious
This
conspiracy.
has
At least
nothing to do
Okay.
with the conversation.
So it wasn't
There's
insurrection.
nothing-
Got it.
There's nothing
This has nothing to do with the
inconsistent
conversation.
about this. You can completely condemn the violence that occurred, which
And then
Donald
pardon
Trump
him
did.
afterwards. Yeah, that makes a lot
And
of
you
sense.
can pardon
That
people
sounds
who
like a dog
believe-
whistle to me, John. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone.
he's
Everyone.
speaking
If
out of
you
both sides of
believe
his
they
mouth.
should
On
be
one
pardoned,
side, he
if you
said
believe they
condemn.
should
On
be
the other
pardoned,
side, he said you
I
guys.
Well, how would you know? You won't let
Okay,
him
okay,
finish what he's
everyone.
saying.
Everyone, I'm going to let John Paul go first, and then Soy, you can respond.
Now, my understanding is you have people who are outside of the Capitol who are recording it. Some people who are even let inside the building, almost walking in like a tour, not really causing much violence, who go and serve years of jail time, along with other people who maybe, like, if they were violent, they also served jail time. And you can pardon those people on the basis that you think that they were either serving a term that was way too long, which was the case when you have many people who were simply trespassing, for instance, spending years and years of jail time and fines, and you can pardon those people while also saying that the violence was absolutely outrageous. And Vincent, you said that Donald Trump never condemned the January 6th attack, when I just
I think
read
it's a
to you the
Holocaust,
statement he
sure.
released right after, calling it a heinous attack, saying what he did to try to stop it, and condemning the
And then what
violence.
did he do
Yeah,
afterwards,
John,
John?
how can
What
how
did
can
he
you
do later?
possibly
How
say
many
that
years
you-
afterwards?
Wait, hold on. I
4
thought I
years
got to
later?
respond.
Hold on,
Corbin,
hold on.
can
So is
I
next.
respond?
Hold on.
Yeah,
So is
how
next.
can you claim that he thinks the violence is outrageous if he thinks they did nothing wrong and pardon them for it? If he's pardoning everyone, like, I agree, there are people in there that maybe shouldn't be in jail for 20 years for trespassing or whatever ridiculous thing, but someone who's committing seditious conspiracy, planning to overthrow the government, someone who like beat up police officers, any of these violent rioters are also pardoned. How can you possibly say that he thinks that violence is outrageous if he thinks you should get zero punishment for it?
He did not pardon every single individual, but additionally, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to steel man your position. I'm going to assume that you are completely correct in what you're saying. There's two main problems. The one main problem is that whenever we give actions done by Kamala Harris and other politicians, we see you and Vincent constantly is saying like, oh, well, she condemned the action, so it's okay.
Wait,
And
John,
that's the
to be
only
clear,
proof,
in
that's the
good faith,
only
I asked you
defense.
this. Can you show me the person that she retweeted in this fund? And if they did something that was a violent action, I actually agree with you. I would say that is the closest thing that you have shown me to a left winger saying tacitly that violence is okay by bailing them out. I've actually said that. For all these other things, every single left wing politician is saying this is awful, we condemn it, and their actions are not indicating of anything otherwise. They're not pardoning violent people. But if you do show me that specific fund and the specific person and what they did was violent, yeah, I'd say, yeah, that is actually tacitly endorsing violence. And I wouldn't agree with that. But that is in totality so
Well,
far
wait a
fewer
second.
than all of
I
these
just want to make
examples
sure.
we
Hang
put
on.
on the right.
Can I make sure I got this right? So if I show you a bunch of tweets from left-wing politicians post Kirk's death, who literally strawman his positions and say that he was a racist fascist, you don't consider that to be some sort of like, I don't know.
Accurate description of objective reality. No.
Okay, so the thing is like that's not them basically giving a pass, right?
No, it's
Okay.
not.
No,
because they
of
don't
course
see
not.
all
You want an
these
example?
people.
So to-
They don't
hang on,
say
so to
that's
get
the
this
only
right-
option. Revealing
Hang on. I just want to make sure so I get this right.
Mhm.
So when it comes to Charlie Kirk, they can condemn the violence out of one side of their mouth, and then on the other side, they can say that, well, but he was a racist, misogynist Nazi,
Mhm.
right? But John Paul, when he brings up, well, okay, Trump can condemn the violence, right?
He
But
can
also give
pardon
them
the
pardons, but also give them pardons later on because he thought that the prison sentences were far too stiff. Why is it that you
This is
think
conspiracy.
that argument would work against John, but not against you in the
You would have
same
to show me
context?
left-wing politicians pardoning people committing violence.
Here,
which
you
is
want
why
an
I gave
example,
up
right?
the example. If you're showing her saying, let's bail out people who committed violence, I would say, yes, that is pretty similar and something I would not be okay with. Versus people accurately describing his ideology, which you say it can only lead to violence, which you actually had to caveat and say, well, it's only going to lead to violence because although everyone really understands that's not necessarily the only way you can deal with the fascist, a bunch of crazy people are going to get the wrong idea. But the crazy people on the right, when Donald Trump calls us fascists, I mean, they don't listen to him. Like, I just don't understand how you think these two things are even close to equal.
Okay, so if you want
That's
an
not an
example, the
argument.
direct
That was just
example-
prattling.
Hold on.
The
No, you
direct
just didn't
direct
understand it. I
example was
understand.
Kamala Harris promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund,
Mhm.
and which was set to bail out protesters.
Mhm.
And among those, you have George Howard, who was bailed out on August 6th,
Okay.
who was arrested on a domestic violence charge. And then later that month, on August 29th, he was arrested again, accused of murder in a shooting. And so you have Kamala Harris retweeting the Minnesota Freedom Fund and telling people to donate to it.
Wait, no, you don't have to
to
explain
bail
further.
out
I
people like
completely
this.
agree. I think that was incredibly irresponsible of Kamala Harris. I think that contributed. I could say you could even tie this directly to her and other politicians who retweeted this stuff for all of the violence that came out of anyone bailed out by that fund. I would say, ideologically consistent, that is not okay. In the same way that Joe Biden mass pardoned these, like, a bunch of drug dealers who may now go out and do more crime. I think that is awful. But if
And
we're
his
going to
son?
talk about what?
And
Well,
his son.
I don't know if his. I think
And
his
his
son's
son?
reformed. His son is reformed. I don't think he's ever going to commit another crime. All right.
Yeah.
I think he's good. All right. Hunter Biden is a
meth
straight shooter.
Biden.
2028. Okay.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
totally straight shooter. But the
Uh-huh.
problem is, if we're looking at
That's
this
not. That wasn't corrupt though, right?
No, I think it was. I think
Oh,
it was.
okay.
That's the whole point. Is we're
But you
able to
voted
call
for.
our own
But you voted for him
side.
anyway. But you did vote for Biden, right? And he would
Yeah,
have
it's
voted.
called, I'm able to make an analysis of which.
Yeah.
the
Would you have
peers
voted?
absolutely
Would you
were.
have voted for him for a second term post him
I
pardoning?
would vote
Hunter?
for Obama for a 5th term. Actually, in fact, I'm voting
Wait,
for Obama.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Without the
2028 when he
trolling,
goes
can you
to
just answer my
2028.
question?
Oh
If
yeah,
he had
it's not
pardoned-
trolling when we're talking about fucking political violence, and now we're going about
Yeah.
Hunter Biden's son and all the crimes he did.
Well, I'm just looking for consistency. I'm just looking for
What I see here-
consistency.
what I see
Well, yeah,
here,
but
and
every time I try to
wanna
pry
really
you for
highlight this.
consistency,
I
you
really
keep
want to
running
highlight
away
this.
and
Okay,
stuff.
I've answered all of your questions,
I'm
dude.
not cherry picking. I
Okay,
just,
okay,
I
okay.
want
I have
you
to-
to
I have
find
to
somebody
mention
that
this.
agrees with me.
I have to mention this. Okay, so this is the biggest concession of the debate.
Yeah, because
Kamala
we're good
Harris
faith enough to
actively-
say this
Hold
is
on,
a bad
sorry, let
thing.
John-
You
let
will
John
not
Paul
say
finish.
this.
understand.
Sorry, let
I
John
will
Paul
agree
finish.
with my premise. You will not say this about Trump,
I want
will
to
you?
predicate.
You're gonna filibuster, right?
I really appreciate the consistency, and I appreciate that you're willing to concede this. I'm saying this is the biggest, most substantial concession of the debate because the Antifa and BLM riots of 2020 was the largest scope and scale of political violence, sustained political violence that we've seen in modern US history. And when you have the vice president, the running vice president, and then the future leader of the party posting Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out people like George Howard.
When was
That
George
is
Howard
absolutely
released?
Shut your
insane.
fucking mouth. Let him finish, Vince.
No.
August
Whoa.
6th.
No, I'm not gonna-
August
I'm
6th,
not
he was
gonna-
bailed out.
no,
August 6th,
I'm
he
not
was
gonna take
bailed
words
out.
from
He
you.
was
No,
arrested
nigga,
again.
dude,
John,
every-
John,
every-
John,
every-
John,
Shut the
when
fuck
was
up.
it, John?
Let
John,
John Paul go.
John, let me ask you something.
Vince, just let John finish his thing, and then you
Okay.
can ask your question.
All right, I respect you, Corbin. Good.
Yeah, Vince, shut up.
Shut the fuck up, Andrew.
He's one of many. I encourage you to look into the reports themselves. The fact is that Kamala Harris posted and encouraged people to donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which was an organization that was bailing out these violent people. That's one example. If I looked into it more, and I'm free to look into it more after this debate and give you all the examples of all the people who were arrested under violent charges and how that is directly that's monumentally impactful when Kamala Harris is the one posting this in the face of the Antifa and BLM riots, which are burning down cities, injuring officers, killing people. Yeah, once again, $2+ billion of damage. Somehow we're going to completely ignore the $2+ billion of damage when we're talking about responsibility and political violence. We have an actor in the mainstream left-wing political landscape who is functioning in such a way that is endorsing, rationalizing, excusing, tolerating the violence that we have seen. You can say that she condemns it, but when she condemns it and posts the Minnesota Freedom Fund, you have a glaring contradiction on your hands.
Okay, so real quick, Vince,
Yeah,
I have
so-
to answer this because we're talking, you're right, about political violence. So, for example, the specific
Soy.
instance you say,
Soy.
which I said
Soy.
was bad.
Soy.
Yeah.
So,
what?
dude, I promised Vince he could go, and he hasn't
Oh,
spoken.
I just
yet.
want to
Go ahead.
respond to this one quick
Yeah, just-
thing.
just
I just
let
want to
Vince
make a
go, yeah.
small little asterisk to what John Paul is saying about George Howard. George Howard was released in 2021, a year after the tweet from Kamala Harris. It had nothing to do with the BLM protests. So again, at the time, Kamala Harris had no idea about this George Howard thing because it didn't even exist yet. So again, you want to bring up the George Howard incident. This is just a proxy of the actual bail fund itself and what it became, not what it was at the time in which Kamala Harris supported it. I
I'm
just want
not
to make
making-
that asterisk.
Yeah, I'm not making the claim that Kamala Harris specifically wanted to bail out George Howard. I'm making the claim that she's supporting a group that is functioning in such a way that is bailing out people like George Howard.
Right.
After.
So to be
Right,
clear,
that
she
is the
endorsed it.
function
Bailing-
of the group that she is promoting.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
not
And-
what's
and-
in. That's
I wanna
not being
grant-
contested, Vince.
Hold on, Andrew.
Yeah,
I do
let
want to.
Soy.
I want to grant it. Let's just say that she helped promote this fund, and one of the many people, for example, I would want to see like to what degree these people are being bailed out for, like the protesters who are arrested in LA being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or doing violence, like throwing Molotov cocktails or burning down police cars or whatever. That's pretty important. As
Can
to
we
why they're
concede-
doing this? But let's be clear.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's be clear because I do
Okay.
want to say this. Let's just say that she specifically did this, and this guy was released because of this bail fund, like
Yeah.
the day after the tweet.
Okay.
What's happening here is the political violence that is happening afterwards would have to be the downstream effects of how she's doing this. Now, I think the chilling effect, or I guess the opposite of the chilling effect, is, hey, protesters, if you get arrested, we're going to let you go. This is what I'm conceding and agreeing. Yeah, that is something that could potentially like encourage people to go out and riot and protest again in a violent way if those violent people are the ones being released. But this guy, in the example you like cited, he didn't go out and do another political violence. He went out and fucking killed some random person, which has absolutely nothing to do with BLM. So you'd have to show, one, when you keep citing, oh, well, this BLM thing, it's all this billions of dollars of damage, which was bad, by the way. I'm not trying to say that was okay. It's somehow downstream of political violence when you can say that a lot of this was rioting and people taking advantage of people protesting. And yeah, it was mostly peaceful, as much as you guys fucking hate that. Just statistically, that's true. But after all that, and me and my good faith willing to say, yeah, if she does this and lets them out, that's potentially a chilling effect in letting people go and do it more. You will never, ever say the same about Trump pardoning violent January 6 people. Why not?
Yeah. So
I actually did grant that to you.
Oh, you did?
I
Okay.
did steel man your
Oh,
argument. I said
okay.
even if that's the case,
No,
in
that's no,
comparison to
don't
large-
steel man it. I'm literally saying this is not a steel man. This is me
Mm-hmm.
admitting I think that if Kamala Harris is saying, hey, protesters, it's okay if you go do violence, in some ways, if they release violent protesters, will kind of give the signal to certain other people that they might be able to commit violence for. And I don't think that's okay. I'm not asking you to steel man me. I'm saying, do you think that Donald Trump pardoning violent people is going to then encourage them to go and do
so
violence?
I would say that these are distinctly different situations, and so
It's always different.
only when things are different, though. Then they're different because they're not the same.
Yeah, it's on the
Oh,
right.
it's
Vince,
on the
only
right,
because when
that's why.
things are different, though, Vince. So anyway,
Anyways.
here's why. So you what you're actually trying to argue right now, Soy Pill, is that more people will do political violence because they just don't mind getting in prison for 4 fucking years before they might potentially get a pardon one day.
Mhm.
That's fucking crazy, one. And the second issue here, Soy, which is really funny, is he's right. You made the biggest concession of the debate, which is that you guys have now acknowledged that there's bail funds all over the place that do indeed.
All over
If you
the
just
place.
concede that they're doing this with some people who are violent and bailing them out, right? Show me the right-wing equivalent. Go ahead.
I don't have to show you the right way
Because there isn't one, you fuckers, you fucking gutless fucks. You
First of all, I'm
lose.
talking, we're
You
specifically talking
lose.
about one bail fund specifically retweeted one time by one politician, and we're talking about those politicians. And the reason I'm willing to concede that is because I have intellectual consistency. But you guys are like, oh, these people that Donald Trump had tried to overthrow an election for him and got released as soon as he had. the
How many
political
years
power
in
to do it.
prison did they spend?
Oh, 4 whole years. Well, I guess if Donald Trump has
So
promised
that's-
to pardon us,
so-
we'll never do it again.
So-
We'll
so
never
to
do
get-
a
there's a
political
massive
wait.
violence.
difference.
It's
So
absolutely
to get this
ridiculous.
right, so to
I
get
don't
this
know if
right,
it's stupid or
hey
bad
guys,
faith.
if you
It's kind of
go and you start rioting in the Capitol, right, you'll spend 4 years in prison and maybe one day you'll get pardoned if
Andrew,
you're
do you
lucky.
think that if
That's
Oh,
hang on,
oh,
hang on.
oh,
Sorry,
oh,
so,
oh,
hey,
oh,
let me
oh,
fin-
oh,
he
let me
would've
ask
pardoned
the
him right away.
fucking
Guys,
question.
I've got
Let
the
me ask,
equivalent.
Let
me
Andrew
ask.
respond. and
right?
then Soy
You'll spend
respond.
you'll spend 4 fucking years in prison, right? And by the way, in horrific conditions in comparison to the crime you're convicted of, Okay, horrific conditions for a lot of these people. You would not have agreed with it, and you guys would be bad faith if you said that you would, with the type of conditions that they got for what it was that they were actually prosecuted for. So the thing here that's funny is like, no, I don't think it's signaling to anybody, hey, if you go, you'll spend 4 fucking years in prison and maybe hopefully one day get a pardon, as opposed to a bail fund which has you out in fucking 2 days. Give me a
To be
break.
clear, he was out a year
Not to
later.
mention-
Andrew. I don't know if you were listening for that part, but also
No, I'm not saying- talking about that
including the
specific
seditious conspiracy
example.
People who
I'm
had,
not talking about
committed
that
and got
specific
sentenced for
example.
22 years, and that's somehow not enough. And the only reason that he didn't pardon them is either one, it wasn't politically expedient, and two, he didn't succeed in overthrowing the fucking election. They probably would have spent a couple months in
Hey,
jail.
Soy
if he
Pill,
actually had. So.
Soy Pill,
Mhm.
how many years do you think they should have spent?
Enrique Tarrio, I don't know. What's the average for seditious conspiracy?
Okay, not
I think-
not him. How about the other ones?
I don't know about
Yeah,
the
so
other ones.
this-
I'd have
this
to go
is-
look.
this
Yeah,
an
do you
interesting
only know
thing.
one?
This is the
are you
interesting
gonna
thing that he
specifically
mentions, and
pick
this is a lot
apart
of
whether or
things
not
that-
I know the violent threat for one of these people, and if not, then my entire argument about whether or not these people shouldn't have been pardoned for committing violence is wrong.
Should they have gotten life?
I don't think everyone should have gotten life for
4
committing
years. I
violence
mean,
for
4
violence.
years. 4 years, a long time in prison, man.
I'd say 4 years is
who
good
got-
enough
wait,
for a lot of these
There's
people.
also a
Wait,
massive
come on,
difference here.
4
There's
years.
a
Hold on.
massive difference here.
Stop.
The reason why this is also one of the biggest concessions of the debate is because Kamala Harris posted the Minnesota Freedom Front during the riots. What
Mhm.
does that say to you? The riots are a sustained large portion of time. Even if I concede everything you're saying about January 6th, that was one day of an
Hey,
inexcusable
what's worse,
violence. There was
overthrowing the
inexcusable
Democratic
violence.
election or $2 billion of
No,
property damage?
we're
in your
talking about
opinion?
responsibility and impact of the political parties. I am not excusing, like Andrew said, we completely condemn all and any political violence.
Do you
which
condemn
is why
January
it is
6th, John?
exactly wrong. Which is why it is wrong when during the
John,
violent
do you condemn
protests and
January
riots
6th?
of Antifa and BLM, when you're posting bailout funds to help people who are protesting and who are in the riots to get out of jail. Like, what does that say? If
So
I'm-
again,
if I'm a
you're,
protester and
you're
I'm a part of
incapable
Antifa,
understanding that
I'm
you're
a part of
conflating
Antifa, I'm going to
protesting,
be like,
violence,
wow, I could- the
violent
vice
crime, and
president is
all of the
tweeting
other
out the
things that are
Minnesota
incorporated in
Freedom
this
Fund.
bail fund.
I
You're
can
completely
escape from
incapable.
this
It's a signal, dude. It's a
When I
signal.
say
If she's retweeting a bail fund, it's a signal.
Trump to pardon
Wait,
some
wait,
of these
wait.
trespassers. You
I wanna
can't
be
even
clear.
fucking condemn January 6th. You understand how fucking insane and unhinged and asymmetrical this is. You have made zero concessions, not because you're more right. It's because the only way you can even possibly get into our brains is to say you're steel manning us. When I am saying, yes, Kamala Harris potentially releasing a violent criminal or helping in doing that is sending some sort of signal, and that is not okay. And you're like, well, we win because we don't want to actually do the good faith thing and understanding that the January 6th stuff is fucked up. Andrew says 4 years is enough. I guess if you have
I
the
just
fucking brain of a bull,
condemned. I just
walk back
condemned
and
the
forth,
January
like,
6th
it's totally
violence.
fine.
I
It
just.
seems
What are you
like-
talking
Yes, it
about?
must just be
How many
because I'm
people
so
actually did
stupid,
violent,
Soy.
awful things?
If only I were just a little bit smarter, I would understand that
You're
making these.
self-admittedly like
making-
average IQ. I don't
Yeah,
know why
that's
you fucking
true.
go
So
on
you,
about
where does that? So where the fuck does that put you? The thing is so funny here is like you've been trounced every debate we've ever had, and including this one. And
Oh,
by
I'm
the
sorry,
way,
I'm sorry. If I
the
declare
funniest-
victory, I won, Andrew.
the
I win.
funniest-
So I
the
win.
funniest-
Actually, I won every debate.
the
we've
funny,
ever
yeah,
had.
the
Just to
funniest
be clear, I'm
part,
declaring it right now.
yeah,
I
yeah,
won
the
every debate
funniest
we've ever
part,
had.
the funniest part about all this is like how bad faith can you be when you try to make a comparison between somebody who tweets out a bail fund while rioting's going on, clear signal, and somebody who gives a pardon after evidence comes out over a 4-year course. Like,
Exactly.
how are these things even comparable, Soy?
Yeah, because one of these people actually did something that was, I'm going to pardon people that I know did violence against this country and probably deserve to be in jail for what they're doing. And the
Did
other
all of
person
them do
who
violence?
tweeted the bail
Did
fund,
all of them do
you
violence?
haven't even established that a majority of these people were violent. You've pointed out to one person who did a completely non-related political act after, and even then, I'm
don't have
still
to establish the
granting
majority
you.
of them
I'm
are
still
violent.
granting you. You know what? I don't think that's okay to retweet that bail fund because that might be signaling to people that violence is
I
okay.
mentioned
And you
earlier.
can't
I
even
mentioned
fucking
earlier
admit
that
that
even if
January
it's-
6th
Hold
was
on,
bad.
John,
That's how fucking bad
goodness.
faith you guys are.
That's
I mentioned
making-
earlier. I literally mentioned earlier that even if it's like, and I will agree, the vast majority of people did not burn down buildings and loot stores or
Would
whatever.
you say that's mostly
There-
peaceful then?
Okay, mostly peaceful means $2+ billion of damages, thousands of officers injured, and many
Can you
more
imagine
killed.
how many billions it would have been if they all
I am
weren't
talking
peaceful?
about the
That'd have been
scope
crazy.
in scale, because if we're going to judge things based off of mostly peaceful, then both sides are mostly peaceful. And if you want to judge based on,
Yeah, I said that at the
based
beginning.
on the scope and impact that these have had, that has been the core framework of the debate. How much impact have these had? How
Mm-hmm.
many issues and problems have the left caused as from political violence? You haven't mentioned any that is even remotely close to the destruction we saw in the Antifa and
Great.
BLM
Not even in the
riots.
same
Not even
universe,
remotely.
by the way.
Okay, so I've got some stats for you. So among the felony pleas,
Did you
we had
chat GPT him? Can you be
172
honest? Did you chat
assaulting law
GPT him?
enforcement.
Did you
We had
chat GPT him?
130
Vince?
that pled to obstructing law enforcement and 69 that pled to assaulting law
Yeah.
enforcement with a dangerous or deadly weapon.
Okay, I'm going to go into all these with
When
you,
we
but
look at
did you chat
sedition-
GPT
when we
him?
look at-
My chat
and
wants
then
to
when
know,
we look at
Vince.
when we look at seditious conspiracy,
I'm just going to ask you again when you're
seditious
done.
conspiracy. Soy, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Enrique Antario was either convicted. I think he was convicted of seditious conspiracy. So again, this wasn't as a matter of law. It was settled that they had done this particular crime. And so if Donald Trump was super about trying to uphold the rule of law, then he would have done so.
Anyway, real quick before I answer to this, did you chat GPT all that? The truth. Tell me the truth.
Yeah. So I had to look it up because the Department of Justice nuked that. Actually, if you go to the source,
So
of
I'm
it, it's
debating
actually
with an
been nuked.
AI. I'm debating with an AI right
Wait.
now.
I didn't chat GPT
I wonder
this.
if the
I
AI
just
is
looked up assault with a
hallucinating.
deadly
But
weapon,
Andrew,
various sentence of anywhere up to 20 years. So 4 doesn't seem like nearly enough. So
Yeah, and if Andrew wants to provide anything to go against the 172, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Repeat the argument. I'm sorry. I want to get the answer to my question first. Go ahead. What was the argument?
And so the argument is that 172 people pled guilty to assaulting law enforcement. You had 130 that pled guilty to obstructing law enforcement during civil disorder, 69 that pled to assaulting law enforcement with a dangerous or deadly weapon, and 4 pled to seditious conspiracy. So by matter of law, they were found guilty and have done
Yeah.
those said crimes.
Do you
And
agree
they
with me
found
that
those-
those are federal crimes? Were they
Of course,
federal
Magna
crimes?
Carta. They were federal crimes. Yes.
Yeah. And what is the prosecutorial victory rate in federal
God.
cases?
See, here's the funny thing about this, right? Is that Andrew Wilson, I was going to say, just because Donald Trump can do something doesn't change the fact.
I wasn't
that,
gonna
again,
say
when
any
you
of
look
that.
at the contrast. Okay,
Bro,
so what is the federal
just
conviction
add when
rate?
they
It's
assume
pretty.
the position.
The federal,
Dude,
Dude, if you would just calm the fuck down and answer the
federal
questions, we can get
conviction
through
rate
it.
is significantly high.
Oh, fuck. We lost.
Completely
yeah.
a non sequitur from the fact that Donald Trump himself sat there and said,
Okay, so
If-
hang
if
on.
you-
Let's
if you-
back up. Let's back up
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you froze. Because you froze,
Mhm.
right? The federal conviction rate is significantly higher, right?
correct.
So if it's the case that federal prosecutors went to these people and told them, and they had their lawyers there, and said to them, if you plead guilty, you're going to get a lesser sentence to this versus if we take you to trial here on this. And then you're going to get a much stiffer sentence. This is usually how that works. Do you agree with me?
By that same logic, then we would
Mhm.
say that every single person in the federal court system that pled guilty is also due to have their themselves pardoned as well because it was a faulty conviction. In the
No, I'm
eyes
not
of the
saying.
law-
I'm not
And-
even saying it's a
Andrew,
faulty
let me ask you
conviction.
something.
Just calm
Andrew,
down,
Andrew,
dude. You keep
Andrew,
jumping.
let me-
If you wouldn't jump the how the fuck am I supposed to have a debate with this guy? It's just
Yeah,
like,
Andrew, let me ask you a question. Okay.
Uh-huh.
In the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty, does that mean that you had committed that crime in the eyes of the law? Yes.
in
or
the
no?
eyes of the law, sure.
Okay, then. So
Mhm.
then, if they did commit that crime,
Does
in the
that mean
eyes of
though
the
that
law,
in fact you
Angela,
did?
Angela, let me finish.
Does that mean in fact you did though?
by necessity it does? In the court
No,
of
it
the
does.
law.
By necessity, it doesn't. If I
Yes, it
pled
does.
guilty to a rape but never committed the rape, did I commit the rape?
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't even know where to go with that. I'm all
Yeah.
done with you, bro. I'm all done with you. Okay.
You work your way, and I'll tell
Okay,
you- I'll
I'm
tell you-
done,
I'll tell
dude.
you
No,
how
I
this-
don't. Listen, that's the
Vincent.
best soundbite I'll ever get from this fucking
That's
debate.
okay.
To be clear,
Okay.
Andrew, I saw a
It's
clip of
okay.
you on whatever talking about how much you raped. So I know it was a weird definition of it, but
Yeah. So again, the idea here is that
You're
Donald
really
Trump-
so if your girlfriend woke you up with a blowjob, she's raping you, Soy. I just want to make sure I got that
That's what I'm
clear.
talking about.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got that clear. But anyway,
If I did
this-
say yes, absolutely, that's what
yeah, I can't. I like. There's. I don't know where to go with that with you, man. We live in different,
That's great.
completely different paradigms. here.
That's great. We do, and that's been exhibited throughout this entire thing. So when we
Mhm.
look at again Donald Trump saying again, we've seen the left where they say they condemn it, and then they go in and they actually arrest these individuals and let the court system work its way through the courts. Now, if you did not commit these crimes, then guess what? There's an appellate process that you can go through to appeal those particular things. And then if all of a sudden at the end it's found that there was a faulty conviction or something, then it should work its way through the courts. If Donald Trump actually cared about the rule of law, if Donald Trump actually did want to condemn political violence, then he would not have pardoned these individuals. But the fact that he did shows exactly where his cards are and where he
Oh, great.
fucking deep state, man.
I know. The swamp is just. muting Vince.
I don't know. To be clear, he agreed to do a debate in a hotel, which I would never do. I don't trust those hotels.
Yeah.
You know how they?
Yeah.
That's where the fucking Chinese agents get you.
But Vince, could you repeat what you were saying before you cut out?
Oh yeah, no, you're good. All I'm saying is by necessity, Donald Trump saying that he can, if he did, and it seems like he did, condemn what happened on Jan 6th, and he would have let the court system work its way through the entire process. And if there was something that and again, I want to mention this as well, that's really interesting. You can't sit here and tell me that all 1,600 defendants had a faulty issue. That's absurd in my opinion, especially in the eyes of the law. If you want to say that there's a few defendants that may have been, had there's some sort of legal issue, by all means. I'm not opposed to saying that a president is able to pardon who they want to pardon, but all 1,600, and mind you, not just that, we also saw them taking down some of these particular Jan 6 pages on the Department of Justice as well. So again, am I muted? Oh shoot, hold on.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, I saw Soy Pill talking, so I thought I was muted. No, that's all I was saying. Yeah, that's all I was saying. It's just and again, I'm glad Soy Pill asked if you condemned January 6th or not. So
I mean, by the standard of justice that you just gave me, we can't even actually have a conversation about this. It's not even possible, just so you know.
What is the standard of justice that I provided?
You just got done saying to me that if a black man was falsely convicted of raping a white woman, that he in fact,
to be clear,
my turn. My turn.
He's changing it. He's slick.
Shut up.
Shut up. Go.
That if it was the case that a black man was falsely, and I'll give you a famous case of this, convicted of raping a white woman, that as long as he was convicted, he in fact raped the white woman. And so because of this, I can no longer actually even take you seriously as an interlocutor. We can't even have a serious conversation about this. How could that be bad faith? It's the same shit.
No, you said convicted. You said pled guilty.
I believe he's using.
So if a black man pled guilty in that case, he did still actually rape her? What? That's the dumbest shit. What are you talking about? Where do you guys live? What reality do you guys live in?
Don't say you guys, because to be clear, that's not what I think.
I mean, obviously, Soy, you have to agree with me that was the dumbest shit you've ever heard.
No, so Andrew, I want to be very clear.
That was really fucking stupid, even on a scale. I know I'm just average IQ and stuff, Soy, but that was really fucking stupid.
Andrew said and agreed with me that in the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty, then you have done that said crime. Now, I understand.
No.
And I did clarify.
No.
Andrew, that's great. That's great. No, Andrew, that's great. So I'm going to continue speaking. So what happened is that I also said if you did not commit said crime and you believe you are falsely accused, there is a process by which you can redeem yourself through that process. If you don't believe
that's not what you said, bro. No.
You said
not even in the state
you said,
universe.
Did you commit that crime? And yes, you did commit that crime.
No, doofus. Here's what happened.
Good.
I asked if you're convicted for a crime. If you in fact committed it, and you said as long as it's the case that you were convicted, then you did in fact commit it. No, that's not what the question was. You bad faith lying.
The fact of
oh my god.
Yes.
Okay, clearly he just reads the law. I don't think he's so obtuse that he thinks that you just did it because the law said you did.
Bro, you need to re-listen to that clip, Soy. You guys are coping real bad on this one.
I keep saying you. First of all, I didn't say it, but it's very clear what he's saying, and you're like bad faith. Like you've.
That I'm the one who's bad faith now. He's backtracking his whole position. I'm the one who's bad faith.
I don't think he really. Do you really think he believes that?
Yes, I think that he was caught. I think he was caught in a basic logic trap, and he bit the bullet because he's a dipshit. I think he's a dipshit and he bit the bullet. That's what I think.
By necessity, me saying that someone should work its way through the appellate process is me recognizing that there are individuals. I'm saying is, as a matter of fact, in the law looks at it as this is a fact that you have committed said crime. It does not mean that you actually did necessarily. That is what I am saying. So when you said it is a fact, yes, it is a fact in the eyes of the law. If you're asking me to clarify, then that is what I am saying. That is why I'm acknowledging that there is an appellate process by necessity.
But did you in fact commit the crime?
In fact of the law, yes, because that's
not what I'm asking.
Well, okay, Andrew, let me ask you something. Andrew, is the jury
your question is like, yes, it's dumb the way you answered it, but your question is so stupid that
it's not.
He couldn't even conceive that you would think that he thinks that no matter what, if the law says it, it's true.
Like, and can someone answer?
What are you talking? It's okay. Hang on. Here, I'll clarify. So I would even grant this, except for this problem. That he asked me, do you think that in the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty to something, you're guilty in the eyes of the law? My answer was yes, of course. But you agree that that doesn't mean in fact you're guilty.
Okay,
And
let
he
me
was
ask you
like,
this, Andrew.
and so hang on. And so he clarified. And then I said, so in fact, would you be guilty? And Dummy said, yes. Like, what do you want me to do with that, bro? What do you want me to do with that?
And now he's clarified. It's very clear he doesn't.
No, I think it's a backtrack, but
Andrew,
okay.
Andrew,
Dude, you really
can
think? Come
I-
on, dude. No one fucking thinks that. He just didn't
They
understand.
do think
Yeah.
that, I think. I think
and
that.
I want to
You
be
think,
very
you think, just to be clear, you think Vince Wilson doesn't believe that an exoneration is ever possible? That's what you believe.
No, I think that he
there
was
was a frame of
biting.
moment in your time where like this
Yeah,
guy.
I think
thinks
he's
that
biting.
judges,
I think he was
like,
biting.
can manipulate reality to their
I think he
will.
was
That's
biting
what
the
you
bullet because he didn't want to make a concession that they could have
No.
been convicted, and if they were convicted, that they could in fact have not been actually guilty of the crime
I want to be
itself.
very clear.
You think all the January Sixers are not guilty of any crime?
I think most of them are not guilty of any crime. Yeah,
All of them.
most.
I
There
didn't
were
say
no
all.
January Sixers that did any violence.
No, there were people on January 6th
Yeah.
who did conduct some forms of violence.
Yeah.
And yes, absolutely. I think that there should have been some sort of punishment for them. Trump condemned them, right? This should not have happened.
Okay.
But
Should
the
they get pardoned?
the thing is like, well, on a case by case basis, not all of them did get
Okay.
pardoned, is my
Anyone who
understanding.
Did a violent, seditious conspiracy? Should he be pardoned?
What did he do that was actually violent?
Plan to overthrow the government by getting the Proud Boys to go in and try to.
What
like,
did he?
kidnap-
No, not what
What
he was
he did?
convicted of. What did
Oh,
he
yeah, to be clear,
do?
Enrique Cario wasn't even there. He planned this violence from the different locations.
So what
that-
violence did they do then?
They tried to. They broke into the fucking Capitol and tried
Oh,
to. kidnap
come
all
on.
the-
That's not what violence. What actual violence did they do? Tell me.
Assaulting police officers and breaking into the Capitol.
Okay, wait. Your claim is that they assaulted police officers?
That's part of my claim. Do you want
Okay,
to
demonstrate it. Demonstrate that that the Proud Boys were assaulting police officers on J6. Go ahead. I just want to make sure that we're clear.
To be clear, this was because of my question was, do you think that everyone deserves
Demonstrate it, fucker.
Every single time that I pin you down on something, you try to ask a question and weasel your little way out of it. Weasel your little way.
How do you asked me the question, I answered it, you
asked
fucking
you,
idiot.
Were there people that committed violence on
What?
Jan 6? You said, well, I think most of them weren't. And then I said, do you think anyone did? You said, yes.
Yes.
And I said, should they be pardoned? And you said, well, I have to go on a case-by-case basis. So
Yes.
just to be clear.
And then you brought those
No,
cases up,
just to be
stupid.
clear,
Okay, so
to be clear,
this is
Andrew,
you're just
every
sorry,
single
you're
person
completely
who
missing the
was
nuance.
justified in
You're
being pardoned,
completely
not a
missing
single
the
one of
nuance.
them.
He's not missing the nuance. He knows he got fucked up.
No, Andrew, can you-
Okay, I agree.
Just every single person, whether every single person was pardoned justly. Can you answer that?
I haven't seen any evidence to the contrary.
Okay, cool. That's what I'm looking for. Now, anyway, I'll go look that up if you really want me to.
Yeah, I really
I'm
want
already
you to.
trying to find it.
I
not
know.
on
Chat GPT is not helping you.
No,
though, right?
I'm on. Right now, no,
The-
well,
the-
no.
the
I mean, I
issue
can look.
with
I'll look it
this-
up on ChatGPT if you want. I was trying to avoid that just to.
You might as
Calm
well
me
use
down
it
a little
now.
bit.
I mean, once you're in it, you're in it.
Okay. All right. I'll use ChatGPT for you then.
All right, you can
Let's
go
see.
ahead and look that up. Again, so I'm a little frustrated that as many concessions as we're even able to give, which is, hey, in this one specific instance of a specific tweet, this might be something that might encourage more rioting and violence, and potentially we can condemn that. In fact, I do. I say if this was at all responsible for any additional rioting or violence afterwards, I think she was a little irresponsible for promoting this bail fund. But when we get down into the nitty gritty of, well, I don't know which people committed violence where, and maybe this pardon, even though he didn't have the ability to do it for 4 years, well, he did it after 4 years, so it's okay. And also, I don't explicitly condemn the violence because really it wasn't that bad. A majority of the people weren't there. It was a mostly peaceful insurrection or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I just don't understand why I
missing
give
the
you a
point.
crumb of good
Okay.
faith when you're unwilling to admit even the slightest of a thing that promotes this as asymmetrical.
That's
at
really
all.
funny because
Insane.
the questions that you asked for the concessions on, you got. So what was the bad faith part
You
here?
condemn
You
January
asked
6th?
you asked the
That was
concession.
my question that you
You asked the
Do you
concession.
guys condemn the violence on January 6th?
I already told you, of course, just like Trump.
Okay, cool.
What part of that
Did you
concession?
bar- and
Wait, hang on. But hang on. So this whole diatribe you just went on
You
about how.
think that
Hey,
his
stop!
part-
Stop!
wait, hold
No,
on.
my turn.
No,
My turn.
wait, hold on.
My
because-
turn.
Oh,
My-
that's
the
not
whole-
Soy,
Question
let-
is,
The
you think
whole.
it's
Yeah,
already
soy.
there.
My turn.
No,
Soy.
no,
Soy.
Andrew, it's not your turn.
Gotta listen to the
just let
mod.
Andrew real quick.
Gotta listen to the mod, soy.
Soy, just let
Gotta
Andrew real
listen to
quick,
the
and then
mod.
you can
So
respond.
biased towards him. Let me
Gotta
talk.
listen.
Soy,
to
I
the
will
mod,
mute you if
Soy.
you don't shut the fuck up.
Go ahead, Andrew.
That's right, Soy. So this whole diatribe that you just went on about how we were bad faith and made no concessions, you just had to backpedal on 15 seconds because both of us said any violence on J15 we condemned.
Okay,
just
now,
like Trump
do you
did.
think that pardoning them is going to perpetuate that in any way, shape, or form, or encourage them? You said no, right? Because that's the actual concession
It
and the argument.
seems
As to whether or not the
unlikely,
actions.
yes.
Hold on, it's my turn now, Andrew. Whether or not
I was
the
answering your
actions of
question.
no, you're not answering my question. I know you're not going to do it, but I'm going to try. Maybe John.
Okay,
will
go
answer
ahead.
this. Point is that the actions of the politicians, so
Mhm.
Kamala Harris explicitly condemning it, you won't ever grant us that that's enough. But now you're saying that Trump doing it is enough. But when I say that Kamala Harris specifically, this is the concession, is allowing these people potentially to get bail for potentially violent actions, which potentially might cause more violent actions to happen. That is a concession. Are you going to concede that any of the rhetoric or the actions of President Trump or any of the Republicans at all might encourage more of this violence?
We have not seen that it is
okay,
the
that's
case.
That's the concession. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Wait, hang on. I wasn't. Let me at least answer before you start doing the fucking joyride. So, the thing is like if you can demonstrate a link like we just did to you between this Republican rhetoric. Shh. Between the Republican rhetoric and what's going on, you can show me the equivalent of, hey, fascist catch. You can show me the equivalent of all these people who are saying that this type of rhetoric, at least in their own little manifestos, they seem to be sourcing it quite a bit. Show me the fucking equivalence, you fuck. Show me.
So crazy. No, you're right.
Answer this question. I'm just gonna say one sentence.
Kamala Harris's bail fund is the reason I'm shooting Charlie Kirk. I totally remember that happening. I totally forgot. Sorry, you got me.
Wait, what does that have to do with anything? No, he didn't miss the point. He didn't miss the point. He just is avoiding the point. He's just avoiding it.
Responsible for this. I'm saying it was irresponsible for her to promote a bail fund that may have resulted in more violence. And the link that you showed was a guy getting released a year later, not from this bail fund, and doing a completely non-political violent act. That's what you're hinging on.
Wait, I thought that you granted that even if this was the case, in order to look for the logical consistency, and we were completely consistent. Yes. Now you're backtracking a second time.
No.
Now you're backtracking again, Soy?
And now you're saying, well, I refuse to condemn Trump for these actions because you have to establish the link. You haven't established the link with Kamala Harris. I'm just assuming this could have had actions, and it's worth saying.
Do you agree with me? Okay.
You refuse to concede that.
Well, let's find out if this is true.
Vicious conspiracy may or may not lead to more violence.
Let's find out if this is true. Do you think that if there's a bail fund present during these riots, that the likelihood that people will show up to them increases or fucking decreases?
I'd say it increases, Andrew.
Okay, that's it then, Soy, you fuck.
Okay, that's the link.
Here's the point that you're avoiding. I need to mention this. I need to mention
John Paul
real fast.
Do it again
based on the distinction.
So increases.
The mod said it's my turn to speak.
Well, yes. So you've been speaking a good bit. John hasn't spoken.
He literally addressed me. Come on, Corbin.
Okay. There's a massive distinction here when you post a bail fund during the riots and pardoning someone years after. So my question, can you name a single act of violence?
No, what's the difference?
I'll tell you the difference. The difference is when there's riots going on and the rioters see the bail fund, they say, maybe I can do more riots and I can get away with this.
When any evidence
is over, hold on, that's the first half.
That they would
when January 6th is over, when January 6th is over and 4 years later you pardon the people, what violence has it? Okay,
what
can you name a
general
single act of violence? Can you link a single act of violence?
What ECA did they have?
Let me add. This is the most important question. This is the most important question. This is the most important question.
How could they possibly try that?
Let me. I gotta get this question out.
So let John let John go again.
Let John go again? He's asking me a question.
I mean, let him finish, and then you can go. Let him finish, and then you can go.
It's a one sentence question. Can you name a single act of violence that has occurred as a result of the January 6th pardon?
Yeah, can you name me the election that they would try again to do? What general election they would
answering a question with a question?
No, because you got to understand that you're saying the litmus test for this is, well, if you put the bail fund in the middle of the riots when there's another opportunity to the riots, therefore you're encouraging it to happen again. And yet there is yet to be another opportunity to help Donald Trump overthrow the election, at least not until the midterms, if not the 2028 election. So they literally haven't had the opportunity yet, but somehow this doesn't indicate that they might try again, even though they're completely now innocent of all crimes that they did on the day that they did it. They haven't had the opportunity to try again. How does this at all map one-to-one?
So it's an argument of the gaps. It's just like, I can't demonstrate it, but in the future, maybe.
You can't literally overthrow an election because there isn't one. How could they possibly try again? What election are they going to go overthrow right now?
Wait a second. I thought you just got done saying that Gavin Newsom was saying that he was going to run for a third term, and
Yeah,
that when he
so
ran for the
at the
third
very
term,
least, the next
what he
general
could do
election
is he
would be
could
2028,
we could
Andrew,
get
so they
JD
can't go
Vance.
overthrow an election.
I want before we get too far away.
Before
this gets too far away, I want to mention this with John because John asked who was pardoned by Trump that later committed a crime. I got a great one actually. I have a story here. This is from The Guardian. It says authorities in Texas say they have captured a convicted U.S. Capitol attacker who was pardoned by Donald Trump at the start of his second presidency. Andrew Taki, 36, was arrested on Thursday in Leon County in connection with charges filed about 120 miles away in Houston for the January 6, 2021. He was, where is it here? He was charged with solicitation. Yes, solicitation of a minor.
But again, if they're being consistent, they'll say that's bad. I would say that has nothing.
Wait, he
to
was
do-
soliciting a minor?
Yes.
What is it? So what does it have to do with anything then?
Well, that's my argument, but you guys are going off about this
What are you
guy.
like? What are you
this guy
talking
who
about?
Went out and killed the guy a year after the fucking riot happened, not immediately after, and has nothing to do with a political message.
No, hang on. My argument was just this. If it's the case that just having those bail funds increases the chance of political violence, and the fact that you only see them on the left, you say yes, then we've already established a link you can't establish back the other way.
Well, he just showed you a criminal that made more crimes happen after he was pardoned. The increase in crime happened post-pardon.
Yeah, he hasn't correlated that had actually
He wouldn't
anything
have been
to
able
do
to commit
with
the
that.
crime if he was in jail, Andrew. He did it because he was pardoned.
Wait
What
a
do you
second.
mean?
Was
Wait,
it political
so
violence?
yeah, it had nothing to do
The
with
guy
political
stabbing someone
nothing.
Political violence?
Was what?
The guy who stabbed someone, like the one example you brought up, was that political violence?
No, that wasn't political violence.
I want to be very
Okay.
clear. Taki also was he assailed police with bear spray and a metal whip on the day he and other Trump supporters descended on Congress. So this wasn't somebody, by the way,
Okay.
he was like just there at the protest.
But
It
I
was
just
somebody who
I
actually
just want
assaulted
to
law enforcement
point
officers.
out though that then anybody who's released from prison, right, can attack somebody, and then we could just retroactively say, well, then you shouldn't have released him.
Well, no, Andrew, to be clear, I'm
Like,
saying
what are you
not
talking about?
that. I'm saying you would have to show some sort of political violence happening as an extension. And I agree that obviously there's probably a likelihood that if people think there are bail funds, they might go again and do it. But you guys can't even fathom in your head that if you get pardoned for trying to overthrow a general election, you might try again the next time there's an opportunity. But because there hasn't been one yet, well, I guess it can't happen. We'll just have to wait and see till 2028. It couldn't possibly happen. The likelihood couldn't
understand.
possibly increase.
So just to make sure I got your argument correct, yes, you believe that bail funds likely do increase the likelihood of violence at these political events, but there's a potential future in which the now pardoned after years of prison January 6ers may attempt to do another overthrow, insurrection that you don't believe happened. Is that
Okay.
right?
All right, hold on. Let me frame it the way you.
Hang on,
did.
is that
So,
right? No, the
no, it's not
insurrection.
right. No, it's
What
not right.
overthrow? There's no
All right.
overthrow. There
No,
was
it's not
no
right, Andrew.
insurrection, right?
Here, let
Let's
me
sort
phrase it
this
because
one.
it's not right. You got a little things wrong. So you believe that Kamala Harris putting a bail fund for people who were just out where they weren't supposed to be and letting them go back out in the streets and protest peacefully is somehow equivalent to Donald Trump getting the people who think they did nothing wrong and actually were on there under explicit orders from him to their belief and saying, hey, this is okay and you can do it again. This is nothing. This is absolutely not going to promote political violence. But Kamala Harris releasing peaceful protesters. I mean, that's insane, Andrew. That's crazy.
I don't actually understand what that particular straw man has to do with my steel man I just
Oh,
gave.
okay. Sorry. I'm sorry that I strawman.
I was giving a steel man. You could have just disagreed with a steel man.
Fuck off. That wasn't a fucking
It
steal.
was.
man.
I was actually making sure I
Okay,
got your position
You
correct.
are so retarded that you couldn't possibly fathom that telling someone
You
it's okay
say-
that you tried to
bro,
overthrow the
All
election
you do is
and then they
filibuster.
try
Do you want to
again
have the
2 years later,
conversation or not?
totally okay.
Do you want to
Like,
have the
are you fucking
conversation or
insane?
not? If
Are
you
you gonna
do, you
admit that
can't
it is possible?
filibuster.
Okay, well here.
So
Andrew,
just chill out and let me just ask you
well,
this.
you interrupted me. Can I?
Well,
finish?
I was in the middle of you can't interrupt your interruption.
Being interrupted by
I
you.
interrupted your interruption. I
Yeah,
was
you-
talking and interrupted your interruption.
You're interrupting right now.
I'm
Andrew.
sorry I interrupted your interruption.
Can I
I'm gonna
finish
let-
my question?
Yeah. So you can ask your question.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
answer.
but here's the thing. When I let you go through it,
Whoa, hold on, Corbin. I
I'm
thought
just setting. I
my
just want to
question.
make sure I'm
Corbin,
setting
Corbin,
conditionals.
Can I finish my
Okay.
question, Corbin?
I just want to make sure that
Andrew,
after that I
Andrew,
can actually
Question-
answer.
Yes, Andrew, you can answer after it. You
All
can
right.
answer.
Okay,
Just-
Andrew, you can
so-
finish. Okay, so when I say, yeah, it's probably likely that there's some increase of people that might do more rioting if they got a bail fund. That's obvious, and that's such an easy concession. But when I ask you, if someone is pardoned explicitly for the crime of trying to overthrow the election, it probably increases the likelihood that they might try again, knowing that the person who might benefit from them overthrowing the election would pardon them again. You cannot say yes to that. Is that true?
Yeah, this is actually correct. But why? Can you give me the why behind it?
No, why don't you give me the why, Andrew?
Oh, that's not how Steelman's work, stupid. Tell
I'm
me
asking
why
you a
I
question. I'm
hold
not
the
steelmanning
position.
you. I'm asking you a question. Please
Oh,
answer.
no. Okay. So, yes, these are not comparable. You're talking about a distinction of 4 years in prison.
There's no general election for them to
All right,
overthrow.
I thought I was going to be
Andrew.
allowed to answer the question.
Oh my
No?
God.
Yeah, so let Andrew go.
Yeah,
And-
so these are not comparable. When you're talking about bail funds just being present, you can't point to anything on the right which is like this. You've conceded this point, demonstrating that yes, not only is the left committing violence, but is also setting up organizations in which to bail people out when they're part of this. The reason that you guys keep on saying, for instance, most of these arrests happen in curfew. Well, yeah, they sweep them off the street because most violence happens after fucking curfew. That's why they're sweeping them off the fucking streets. That's one. The second aspect here, which makes no sense to me at all, they spent years in prison. Clearly, the people broadly must think that there was a massive injustice which happened here because Donald Trump got elected again. It's not like I'm in some like marginal tinfoil hat conspiracy bubble. Most people seem to agree that, wait a second, something seriously wrong happened with the prosecutions of these people in J6. They re-elected the fucking guy, and he won the popular vote on top. Calm down, calm down.
Based, by the
I
way.
thought I was
Bases
we're
were
still not allowed, still not allowed to answer, still not allowed to answer.
let
Right?
Andrew
Okay,
finish,
so
and
anyway,
then you respond.
the thing that's really funny here is like they're not comparable at all. Having that 4-year prison, so you always omit that. They had 4 years in fucking jail before the pardon. You think that doesn't act as a deterrent, and then you say, "Well, wait a second, no more election can even happen." Then what the fuck is Gavin Newsom talking about? How Trump's going to stay for a third seat and how he's going to accomplish that? He's just going to deploy the military, declare himself the king of the fucking United States? Like, what are you even talking about here, man?
Okay, so thank you for admitting your entire base is fucking retarded and that you didn't understand my point. The point is there has not been an election for them to try and overthrow. They were in prison for 4 years because Donald Trump was not president and could not pardon them for those 4 years. As soon as he gets in power and as soon as he has the ability to, he gets them out. And now, if there is another election in 2028, they would very likely at least just admit that they might try again in the next election, which could happen. And then Donald Trump might say, "Hey, I pardoned you once for this. It's very likely that I'll pardon you again for it." Why the fuck wouldn't they try again?
Because they don't want to spend another 4 years in prison. If it is the case
worked
that
this
the
time.
new government, hang on,
Hold on, Andrew,
why is nobody ever allowed to actually answer the question you ask? It's very likely that if there's a deterrent of, the federal government's going to fucking persecute you if you even show up, if you don't even commit violence, right? They're going to persecute you and throw your ass in fucking prison. And by the way, they had 4 years. This was the most investigated. I believe that this was the largest U.S. investigation in history. I mean, you can chat GPT that. I think that that's the case. The largest in history. You think we don't have the facts on it at this point, and that the president and his Justice Department can't go through the facts before they give these pardons, and he was swept in by popular vote. It appears that there could have been some injustice going on there. I'm just not willing to accept your narrative that when you say, "I don't agree that this was actually an insurrection." Okay, I don't either. And so the thing is what's really funny is these guys get put away for 4 years. You think they're going to go back out and try a second time? Yeah, fucking right, dude. Yeah, fucking right.
Okay, so to be clear,
I also do want to mention
psychologically
4 years
inconsistent.
for
You're ignoring
assault
the
is a
fact that
very
these
long
people-
time.
Hold on, one at a time.
Go ahead, John.
Soy, and then John.
Okay, cool. So you're completely ignoring the fact that these people are dead to rights, convicted of like trying to overthrow the government. The reason I don't want to hang on the insurrection point is because I know you love playing the definition game there, and it's not really worth it. We can see what they tried to do. They tried to steal the election for Donald Trump, and once he had the power to pardon
Wait, so
them
you
for
were
it,
lying,
their plans-
and you do
I'm
think
sorry,
it's
Andrew,
why is
let's
no one
go.
ever allowed to
Hold on.
finish a
Everyone
point,
else.
Andrew? I'm sorry.
So it was an insurrection.
Everyone else.
So to be
Let's
clear,
finish.
they tried to overthrow the election, and Donald Trump pardoned them for that. And you're so incapable of admitting that maybe people who realize that, hey, if we were successful and Donald Trump had become president, he would have pardoned us right away, or we wouldn't even gone to jail in the first place. That's so beyond the pale for you. Couldn't possibly conceive of it. But when I say, yeah, maybe some people who looked at a bail fund might say, well, I don't have to worry nearly so much about crime. I'm being so fucking good faith in granting you that when you still haven't established that any people that rioted did it because of a bail fund. I'm just saying, it's probably likely, but you're incapable of admitting that maybe someone pardoned for a crime might try to do it again in a way that gets their guy elected so that he pardons them again or they never go to jail.
Well, wait a second. When it comes to the realm of logical possibility, and grant almost anything is logically possible, Superman could exist, for instance. We're talking about the cases of likelihood, right? What I saw was Nick Fuentes distance himself from Trump after J6. I saw a lot of the prominent people who were there afterwards distance himself. I don't want anything to do with this guy. And a lot of the people who were released, were very mad at Trump. They were very upset with Trump. They thought they should have gotten a pardon on his way out the door. It does not actually seem as though these people are going to be willing to show up to overthrow any fucking election or that they ever did in the first place. And by the way, let's point this out, that you just lied about your position on insurrection twice, right? I asked you if it was. I promised
John Paul that he could respond.
So the insurrection, right, point, when I asked you, was it an insurrection?
I said, let's say no.
No, he said no. No, he said no.
Conversation go further. Let's say no.
He said no. No, you didn't say for the sake of the conversation. You just lied about your position. You were hiding it.
And I'm saying you in parentheses for the sake of the conversation, because the implicit thing is we're not going to get bogged down.
Okay, well, let me just ask this: was it an insurrection or not?
Let's say no. For the sake of the
no. Your actual position. Hey, I'm not trying to bog it down. I want to know the answer.
Let's say no, because it's not really worth fighting.
Was it an insurrection or not? Yeah. So you got nothing. You fucking lying sack of gutless weasel.
I'm not lying. I'm saying let's say no for the sake of the conversation.
Yeah, but I don't want
Andrew and Soy. I promised John Paul that he could respond.
Okay, so there's a lot that needs to be addressed here, because I think, Soy, you're missing or just outright avoiding all the points that we're bringing up. So I'm willing to grant, and I do grant, actually, that if Donald Trump pardoned people who you can confirm committed violent crimes and did that during a time of insurrection on the Capitol or violence, that could potentially lead to more violence. But there's a lot of conditions. There's a lot of conditions.
Let's say yes for the sake of argument.
Yes, let's say yes. There's a lot of conditions. There's a lot of conditions.
That's what you're saying. I'm not saying
what we're saying.
No, let's say it for the sake of argument, though.
I don't agree with this argument.
Oh, I don't agree with you not agreeing with the argument.
Oh, why?
Let's just say for the sake of argument, we'll hide all of what we actually think about things from now on, Soy.
Is the definition of insurrection prevalent?
Okay, so here's the thing. We don't.
I'm not asking. Did I ask for a definition of insurrection? Fuck.
We don't know enough about each individual case to make a claim regarding the pardons. But so we're just assuming that he pardoned someone who actually committed a crime.
No, we're not. Actually, Vince brought up a specific example for you, John, and you said, "Well, actually, the violence."
There's many points. Okay.
Here, I like to jump in at some point.
What Andrew was bringing up, which is very important, is the concept of deterrence. When people spend time in jail, and they spend time in jail, that acts as a deterrent. I'm not going to go and step foot even close to the Capitol if I know that people who just standing there recording the building on the outside were given years and years of jail time, let alone actually trespass and assault officers.
Okay, by your standards, can you tell me one violent criminal who is released on bail immediately after the BLM thing?
For the sake of argument, I can tell you 5.
Okay.
For the sake of argument.
Something incredible here.
Forth a little bit.
Kamala Harris, when she put out the bail fund, that was during the riots. Yep. People can see that, and they could reasonably commit more crimes. Yep.
Okay. So as long as the crime happens within a longer time, it's okay, right? Here's
it's
okay if the crime happens 8 years later, even if they were encouraged over the course of 8 years. That's fine.
No, that's not the main point. Okay. You're not encouraged. By the way, 4 years for assault. That's a long time.
What if they thought they weren't going to get another 4 years?
The maximum you get for a misdemeanor assault most of the time is a year.
Well, it's
so 4 years. I'm not going to.
So it's not a misdemeanor. That's a little different.
And their felony assault is generally up to 7 years. 4 years is a long,
it can be up to 20 sometimes if it's with a deadly weapon. Actually, I didn't ChatGPT that.
I don't think people want to spend any time in jail.
Would you lie to us about that,
Google, by the way, Soy.
We're talking. We're making a point about probability. We're making a point about probability.
for example, that
Okay,
Kamala Harris
there's two things.
specifically
There's a
might be
point about
promoting violence.
probability, and then
She's
there's a
good
point
enough to do
about
that.
linking
She's
the
very
actual
capable of doing the
cases.
same.
Okay, can I finish real fast?
Yeah, go
Point
ahead.
about probability. The probability of someone counting on the fact that in 4 years their president is going to get elected again and pardon them makes it extremely unlikely that they're actually going to commit another act of violence. When
Okay,
you
what
post a
percentage
bail
would you put on
fund
that,
in the
John?
middle of a riot, people are going to think I can escape this potentially, and that is
What
going to make it
percentage?
more probable to commit violence.
How many
The
people?
other thing is the
What
linkage
percentage?
between these violent acts.
How many
We made a
people?
Dude,
condition.
why can't this guy
that you
even
need
make
to
his
link.
case, dude? Just
Because he's
calm
like
down.
talking out of his ass about points that he's not even
So,
You know,
so
I talk.
Okay,
There's the
you know,
probability
funny is
point.
like-
I gotta make the link.
Let
John
John Paul finish. Soy.
he's been super
Soy.
respectful to you. At least let him make his case.
That's fair, he has.
Let's just let.
I got.
so-
I got.
Take you out for a beer,
John,
John.
go.
All right, so there's a link. The other point, other than probability, is the point about linkage. So we have given the condition that when you're talking about responsibility for political violence, there has to be a link between the act and the violence. We demonstrated a direct link between Kamala Harris posting bail fund and people, rioters, committing acts of violence. There is not a case. There's not a case where as a result of the pardons, that people have committed more political violence as a result of the pardons. You haven't made that case. So you have two issues. I mean, your only argument is about potentiality. Your only argument is about potentiality, that potentially in 4 years, if JD Vance or Donald Trump or whoever's running for president doesn't get elected, then probably there's a potential for people to form an insurrection and overthrow the government. Probably some people will commit violence because they're probably counting on the fact that in a number of years, there will be a president of their liking that gets elected again and pardons them. That's a completely outrageous point. Your only point is predicated on that point, which is completely false. And secondly, you actually have to show a linkage between violence that actually occurred, which we have, and you have not.
Can you show the link
No,
between
okay.
Kamala Harris's bail fund and people going out and doing more political violence? Because you haven't done it
Yeah,
yet.
rioters.
You can't just say rioters. You have to show that her bail fund encouraged rioters to go out and do more political violence. You got to
You
show me
did.
that.
Yeah.
You did.
No, you didn't.
You,
just
you made the
granted
concession.
that it
You
was
made the
likely that
concession.
might happen.
No, you made the concession.
Oh, okay. So when I grant you the modicum of good,
You didn't
faith,
grant shit. It was a concession.
Oh, it's not a grant. It's a
No,
concession.
it was a concession. Yes,
So it
you're
definitely
conceding the point because it's
Definitely
true.
happened. It's definitely
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
Okay,
If it's
okay, yeah.
true,
Let everyone let
true.
Vince come
Sorry.
in now.
yeah. If it's true, right? There's a difference between it's likely versus it did. If it did, then there should be something that you guys can point to say.
Actually,
it
this is
did
a good.
happen.
This is actually a good point. So you're right. We're talking about likelihoods. And so when I asked Soy, do you think that the likelihood drastically increases when you have a bail fund? He says, yeah, it does. Of course, it makes sense. Hang on, it makes sense.
Wait.
Hang on, calm down. Calm down.
I got 2 words out, by the way, before you just
Well, I
like
thought
jumped in.
that-
Like, yeah, this is.
well, you
Okay,
just
yeah.
asked me a question. Like, why do you guys ask me questions and then when I
I was
start
giving a
answering them, you get
statement. I didn't
upset?
ask you a statement. I said. that
Okay,
if
go ahead.
I said that there is a difference between likelihood and that something did happen, and that if you guys say that something did happen, in fact, that you guys should be able to provide something to back up that claim. And that is something that I feel like you guys have not done. And again, reiterating my opening statement that you guys have fully proven is that anytime we bring this up, you guys deflect. You'll say that it's some other kind of issue. You will not take responsibility for the fact of what you guys do. But when it's the left, you guarantee it wouldn't take any modicum of evidence. You could just see that you, like you said before already, by the way, you could see a word on a bullet case and automatically go, yep, that's the case. But I guarantee you, if
It
it
was
was
the
somebody on
case.
the right, you guys would not sit there and you guys would have all sorts of just like, well, wait a minute, guys. Hey, he might have PTSD. Oh, he might have had trouble with his marriage. But you guys would never, ever, ever grant that amount of courtesy to anybody on the left.
Well, here's the thing. It's really funny, right? It's like, I don't know why you think it is that our faculties go out the window when it comes to this stuff. Like, I think a tranny fucker who fucking puts out, oh, hey, fascist catch. I think we can put 2 and 2 together there, right? I think we can put it together. I know it really jumped in. Shut up. It's my Vince's exchange. I know, Vince, that upsets you that we were able to call that correctly because it was very simple to do based on the circumstances of what was going on with that particular case. But the funny part here is like, I don't even
I
understand.
mentioned J6.
I actually don't even understand the ultimate
We know.
criticism. If we're talking about likelihoods, then all we're doing is making the same comparison that you're trying to. We're saying that the likelihood here If it's the case that you have bail funds, you make the concession, of course, if the bail funds are there, that is going to increase the amount of people on the ground, thus increasing political violence. Versus, do you think that it's likely that people who spent years in prison after a pardon they didn't even know that they were going to get is going to somehow increase the likelihood that there's going to be another example of J6? You also say that we're running away from responsibility or somehow deflecting. And yet, when asked directly, do we condemn any violence which happened on J6? We both said yes, and so did Trump. Not only are we not deflecting, we're taking Vince's exchange. Calm down, Soy. The thing is like, how many concessions can we possibly make in good faith and demonstrate this for you? And by the way, let's just assume for a second we never did. We never, ever took responsibility for anything. What the fuck does any of that have to do with whether or not the left commits more violence or not? What? Even if I deflected from everything and doubled down and said Trump's the man, he should have overthrown the fucking government. Even if I said that shit, Vince, what the fuck does that have to do with whether or not the left commits more violence or not?
We moved on from that, Andrew, because you were unable to accept the data and didn't have data of your own that countered ours. So.
Well,
and not to mention,
very scientific.
Okay, here's a more one-to-one example that you guys will maybe accept.
Can you let Vince answer?
I highly doubt it, but I do want to ask you that real quick.
No.
I think we should find the guy who roughed up that protester in my.
Sorry, seriously.
Let Vince fucking have his exchange. You calm down. Twirl your fucking propeller or something for a second.
Okay,
what did you want to say to Andrew?
I'm just
thinking,
sorry.
I think it has a lot to do with it. Again, if the right refuses, and again, going back to my opening statement, because I love to reference that, is that again, in the absence of condemnation from the right, and you guys may condemn it, that's fine. But the vast majority of people that I have engaged with and that I have seen online don't necessarily condemn it outright, and the most that I have seen have done otherwise. And so in the absence of
that's exactly the look I was expecting.
I can go. I'm sorry, dude. My internet sucks. You can look at the left. When you look at the left or the right,
who on the right didn't condemn violence? They all condemn violence, as far as I saw.
Okay,
so let me ask you something. Let me ask you. Since you talked about dog whistles, if Gavin Newsom said, "I condemn this rhetoric," and then goes in and then pardons or bails out, because you guys have already said this implicitly with Kamala Harris, then bails out all of those people that protested, would you still say that Gavin Newsom condemned and that he condemned the rhetoric? Would you say that same thing? Because you seem to not be doing that with Kamala Harris. In fact, you were saying quite the opposite with Kamala Harris.
You're saying, so like if this something equivalent of J6 happened in California, and then Gavin Newsom decided that he would go ahead and pardon all these people after they did 4 years in fucking prison, would you agree that he condemned the violence the day after? Yeah, probably.
I don't believe it, but
that's nice. An argument from incredulity. Andrew, I don't believe you. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, if Donald Trump were to say, "Hey, I will pay the bail funds for people who assault protesters at my things," and that's in the middle of protesters doing things in his rallies, would you say that might be encouraging?
You mean that gotcha where he was being tongue in cheek? It was very cleverly done there. So
okay, so even in the most one-to-one example, it was a joke.
Show me the bail fund.
Kamala Harris, like LOL bail funds.
Show me the bail fund.
Bail funds. I think bail funds are pretty funny.
LOL bail funds.
Bail funds are funny, dude. I think they're hilarious. I'm going to go retweet a bail fund now.
Can you show me the actual bail fund? It was a clever gotcha, but it didn't work. Show me the bail fund. Show me the bail fund.
There is a Patriot Legal Fund. There's a Patriot Legal Fund that's helping pay for legal fees of all of those who are on January 6th. They're also helping pay for some.
There's not funds for protesters then. So not that.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, Andrew. I could have sworn you said these don't exist on the right, and he just brought up a.
That doesn't. That's not a fucking protester bail fund. You lying sack of gutless shit.
What would you call them then?
Who? No. The J6ers are people who are being politically persecuted. This is. Dude,
if you didn't smoke and you weren't so fucking fat, it'd be easier to lift the goalposts and move them around.
This was long. This was long, Aster. You should use those dick-sucking lips of yours to go ahead and actually make the case.
Hey, girls love these. You should ask your wife.
Make the case. Make the actual case. Ask my wife.
Doesn't it suck when people yell at you and you get all flustered and your masculinity just disseminates?
Are you ever?
You start to feel all that sexual anxiety, Andrew?
Are we just going to troll
all the other men? Your wife.
Let's troll. Hey, if you want to troll, let's troll. Is that what we want to do?
Hey, Soy, look. I think
I mean, are we
so
just going to do trolling? If you want to do
So
that, we can do that.
I think it's the pickle behind you that's got him a little flustered.
Olive.
I didn't even think of that. Holy shit.
Olive.
Well, check this out.
Jesus Christ. Okay, we're gonna throw things.
You keep one by you just in case. Now, do you have someone else loosen up?
We're gonna kick it over to John Paul
That,
now.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, Soy. Like, if you want to have legitimate
Andrew, I
debates,
just said we're gonna kick it to
I
John.
don't give a shit. Here's the thing, Soy.
Wow, Corbin,
If we're
you're,
gonna just,
really
if we're
letting
just
Andrew
gonna
walk over
do,
you there. That's
if we're
pretty
just
funny.
gonna do,
Okay.
if we're just gonna
No, I
do
don't like playing
trolling,
favorites.
Now we're
I will
doing
mute-
trolling.
I will mute everyone. We're kicking.
now
it to
we're
John.
now we're just doing
We're
trolling,
kicking
bro.
it to John Paul.
No. Now
this
we're
is
gonna
not
do
to
some
send
trolling.
you Just memes.
No.
We're
We
kicking it to John.
must do trolling now.
We're kicking it to John.
We
John,
have to
do
do
your
trolling now. John's not allowed to talk anymore. Nobody's
I'm
allowed to
tired of
talk.
moving
We're
goalposts. We
just
gotta troll
doing
now, guys.
trolling now.
All right, John Paul.
Nobody's allowed to speak. He's allowed to
Wait,
insult my
I will-
wife.
I
Right?
will-
He's allowed to do
Hey, you
that.
would have called her a 6, dude. I just
Hey,
want to see what you do, right?
when your fucking family's doxing's up online, don't get mad at me. You opened it up. You opened it up.
Sure.
You
All right,
opened that
John.
shit up. And the
Yeah.
thing that's
Yeah,
funny is like,
I will-
wait, hang on. So
We did it
was
first.
that
Just
was
like
that
the
due
Proud Boys? You're just playing
was
self-defense.
was that due to your rhetoric?
Was what?
Did you bring it on yourself with your rhetoric? By the way, we don't do. By the way,
I
never.
think the insults were.
By the way,
brought
we
to you
never
when you called
do.
me-
By the way, we never do doxing
I
ever.
waited
I'm just
for
pointing
that.
this out to you. I'm just pointing this
I'm
out to
pointing
you.
out that you are an incredibly weak man baby who postures as super masculine, but the instant someone insults you, you get flustered and feel like a little bitch.
No, you're
And
just
so
filibustering.
clearly-
You're not.
so clearly upset
insults
about it, and now
your
you're like,
insults are
"You're
shit.
being really mean to me." And
Your
like,
insults are
that's
dog shit.
Embarrassing.
You
dude.
wear a propeller on your fucking head.
Yeah,
You're a
and
fucking
you yourself have
doofus.
said, "Hey, he does it as a joke," but now that you think you can
Hang
use
on,
it,
hang on.
you're
Can
trying
we?
so hard. You're
can you tell me-
grasping. Go
can you
fucking
tell-
smoke
Can
another
you tell me
cigarette.
why your live streams
Sorry,
only have
dude.
4,000 on them, and your
Because
other streams
people-
have
because
9?
people subscribe to me
yeah.
for video essays. They don't give a shit.
Yeah,
about
so
it.
it's really weird. It's
Fucking
almost like you're
bot-
lying. It's almost like you're lying about. Yeah, I think you're botting your channel. You want to talk about that?
Botting, dude. Why would I
Yes.
bot to have 200 fucking people, dude? You think
I-
I think they go on these live streams that
I
make
don't
me no
understand.
money and I
Yeah.
pay for them? You're fucking insane.
Exactly.
dude.
That's what's weird.
Now
How
I
do you
feel
have
myself.
200,000 plus views on some of your videos? A lot of your
Watching these
videos,
things that aren't this because
but you don't make any fucking money. You make
This
zero
is your
money.
life. You try to market yourself selling
Mhm.
debate for some reason, even though you're
Yeah.
dog shit at it.
I
You
don't know. I
come out
beat you
here
every
and you're like,
time.
guys, this is my whole fucking life. Debate is awesome. On your birthday, instead of spending time with your family,
If you were good at
debated for the
debate,
whole
then
day.
why won't you
I go out,
debate?
I make video essays and then I go live
Mhm.
a fucking life. So yeah, my fucking audience doesn't like this shit. It's awful. And I tell them I'm sorry. All the descriptions are like, I'm so sorry you have to watch this absolute dog shit. You love it. In any other situation, you'd be a fat, overweight construction worker who dies of a heart attack at 45.
know.
But thank God that you have the fucking internet and a bunch of retards think you're fun to listen to. So now you can make money doing something else. It's embarrassing. You're a
Anything else?
fucking embarrassment of human beings.
Is there anything else, Soy?
I have a lot more to say.
How's that apartment treating you?
It's actually pretty nice, actually.
I don't know. I'm about to move into a $1.4 million house, and that's
Yeah,
pretty
again,
fucking
I-
nice too. That's
I've
pretty
said
fucking
multiple
nice too.
times, You've got a MAGA
Oh.
audience of a bunch of retards who
Ooh.
also love giving money to people.
Hey,
who think, I've
Enjoy,
seen
enjoy
people
the
that-
propeller hat.
you-
Enjoy the
you-
fucking
you-
propeller
no,
hat, bro.
fucking
Enjoy the
awful.
fucking propeller hat.
When you have nothing to offer them. You're so bad. I don't know why you self-admit to being low IQ.
Hey.
Why not just say you're smart? At
Hey,
least then they'll have a
bro.
masculine figure. To
I don't
look
know
up
what to. Hey, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry that I make so much money online, and you're seethingly jealous. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
That's the one thing you've said that's correct. I wish
I'm
I made
sorry.
as much money as you, but
I know.
unfortunately, I can't be as stupid.
I can't even. You can't even imagine how much I'm making right now while you're filibustering the debate.
I can totally imagine it.
I know, but dude, you really can't.
No, I'm
It's so much
right
more than
now.
you, bro. it's
I'm
so much
actually
more
able
than
to
you think.
project even 8 years into the future when I'm making a lot of money.
You're not ever going to make any
When
money
the next
online.
election happens, and I'll
Because you
just
can't. You can't debate. You
have a
just troll.
Scrooge McDuck vault. Full
You
of
don't
coins
even
and bills.
debate.
It'll be
You just
amazing.
troll.
And I can imagine the election too. It's
Look
so
at this
easy.
debate. So who do you think's going to come and debate with you again?
Dude, and no one ever debate with me, you realize I get to focus all the time on the things I want to do and not the things that you love.
Then
doing.
why is it that you wanted to do this debate then?
I actually did. You know, it's so funny. Corbin, I was going to be super nice to him. He reached out and he was super sweet. And he said, "You're the first person I asked." And then the next day he said, "And Andrew Wilson's confirmed." I said, "Jesus Christ, I have to talk to this fucking retard for another 3 hours." But I didn't
think
want to
the
be mean to
specific words
Corbin.
you used
And
were
John, I
obtuse.
just want to say you've been incredibly respectful, and I actually am. I know you're at UC Berkeley. I'll go out. I'll take you to lunch, and I think you can be saved because you're not stupid. You really aren't. You've demonstrated actually at least in some integrity and the ability to like process a logical argument, even if I think you're completely wrong. So, you know,
You don't know anything about logic. You're the worst at it. And by the way, if you were good and skilled at debating, why wouldn't you just keep debating? Why do you have to troll the debate?
This accomplishes nothing. You're unable
Yeah,
to
you can't do it.
the
You can't
littlest
do it.
amount of thing. The only thing this is for is your
The only
retard
thing you
audience.
could do was attack my wife.
By the way,
That's
you
it.
accuse me of botting. Half these fucking people
Yeah.
are your guys in here. Like,
Can I
"Hey,
just ask
Andrew
you?
Wilson
Can I just
W,
ask you
buddy.
one
It's
question?
So great.
Just
Because
one
they're
question
so-
before we wrap the
they're
debate up.
not
Have I
constantly
ever
declaring
have I
women
ever
like you.
attacked? Have I ever?
Over
I
here.
just want to know.
Oh, now you want.
Have I ever attacked your family once?
You don't know my family, but I'm sure you
No,
try.
because I wouldn't. I just don't do it.
You wouldn't
I
attack
don't
my
do it.
family.
I
Good
don't do
gracious
it.
Andrew, kind Andrew. He's just the nicest guy out there. Guys, I want to go look at all the clips of Andrew being so nice. He's just the most good faith, kind person. He's always
I am
reaching out to
actually, yeah.
build bridges. He's never done anything awful, misogynistic, or awful.
What
to
have
all
I
these
done
other
awful to name
Like,
something
like,
I've done
oh,
awful to
yeah.
somebody?
No, you're right, Andrew. I think you're the paragon of.
Can you tell me
beautiful,
what I've done awful to somebody or not?
angelic behavior, and it's so
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
And,
just you're just a
anytime
low tier
anyone comes
troll.
to you, just because they hate you and you're good debating and logic, it's so
Mhm.
fucking awful. Andrew.
Well,
I
the
don't know
thing
why
is
everyone's
funny.
so mean to
Yeah,
you.
just
I don't know why-
filibuster.
I don't know why I'm so mean to
Filibuster the
John.
debate,
Why
troll.
don't I get to say, why don't I insult
Yeah.
John's family? It's probably
You're
because
not-
John.
Look, you're
nearly
not a
so
serious.
good.
You're not a serious person. You're not a serious debater. I don't know what to tell you.
Are you
Thing
calling me
is-
not- how dare you call
Thing
me not
is,
serious?
the thing is
Andrew?
like I
This
came
is your
on.
job. You're talking to
Yeah.
this fucking retard
Yeah.
and you're bragging about it. Like, I'm happy for you.
I
You're
was
making
doing
all
a
this-
favor for
I'm
Corbin.
out here and say, I'm not a serious person.
I was
This
doing
is your
a favor
fucking
for
life.
Corbin.
Who you're talking to? I do this for
I
fucking
appreciate
fun.
everyone
This
Yeah.
is a
giving me a slice
career.
of the clout.
And that's exactly why you're going to keep on working at the fucking low tier factory you're at. I'm sure. The thing is, though, is with Corbin, and here's the thing: it's funny. I came out to help his channel. I told him the last debate I would, and so I did. I came
And you know
out
what?
and did exactly that. But the thing is like never forget that you're a low tier fucking troll, and you could have had a great debate here, and you just chose not to.
It's all me, buddy.
This was all you.
Well, you know what? I appreciate all of you fine gentlemen coming out and giving me a slice of your clout. I really appreciate that.
I don't got no clout. All
look-
right, look, I'm trying, but I ain't
You're
got.
more
I
clouded
got
up than I
shit.
am, Vince. All right, you got to
Yeah.
give yourself some credit. I'm not like the.
I'm-
bottom
I'm-
of the totem pole
I,
there, all
I
right?
will say, I mean, now that we're kind of winding down a little bit, I mean,
Yes, we were winding.
I
This is
don't-
winding down.
I know this is like this is winding down. I will say,
so-
I mean, just on the top. Oh, I'll let you go ahead.
So we are closing in on the 3-hour mark. I don't know if any of you gentlemen have a hard out. I can keep going for a bit, but it seems like we've derailed a good bit. How do we kind of want to proceed?
Yeah, I'm good with closing statements.
All right,
Yeah,
everyone else good?
that's fine.
Alrighty, then, Mr. Soypill, where can people find you, and give yourself a closing statement?
Yeah, I'm a low tier factory worker, the Soy Pill. I do video essays on YouTube, but don't go check those out because I need to fail out and pursue my real career of whatever the fuck it was going to be otherwise. I wanted to come here and talk about the rhetoric of our politicians and how blatantly obvious it is that the right wing is refusing to condemn anything. And while I would not put this onus on John or Andrew, despite Andrew's reach, I think it's very clearly a demonstration of what those Republican politicians do, which is deflect, excuse every single time. There's never, ever a modicum of responsibility for when their side and their rhetoric does something awful. You can ignore the study if you really want to, but I promise you, if you go through it, yeah, you're going to find some things that you might say, maybe that belongs here, that belongs there. But until they provide some sort of study that shows that actually the left wing is overall doing it and not declare, well, it's because of these videos I saw and it just kind of feels like more are happening, I'm going to go ahead and say that probably the right wing is doing it more. And I'll even concede, look, it seems like the left wing's doing it more this year, and that's not good. I condemn it. It shouldn't happen. But guess what? The right wing's being super fashy. So that don't justify violence against them. But I mean, if you literally go on the HUD.gov right now, the radical left are going to shut down the government and inflict massive pain on all American people, according to the current Trump administration. It's always the entire left's fault. It justifies everything that's ever done to them. He's going to pardon them. He's going to do awful things. And hey, when it gets really, really bad, maybe we will have to do some, boogaloo stuff. But I don't think we need to get there. I think we can have peaceful elections and fight back against this really well. So thank you for having me, Corbin. Andrew, it was fun. I know the insults go back and forth. I don't know why your wife's off the table when, clearly she's in the debates with us. I would never go after your children. I hope they live prosperous, beautiful lives.
Oh,
John,
I can't believe. Oh, you're so nice.
This is my
Okay,
closing
let's not.
statement, Andrew.
You're so
Hold it in.
nice.
I know
Let's not.
you have very low inhibitions, but yeah, John, hit me up on Twitter or something. I'll take you out to lunch out in Berkeley or something. So
All right, Mr. John Paul Leon, where can people find you, and what's your closing statement?
All right. So first of all, I just do want to thank everyone for participating in this debate. I do think we did touch upon a lot of crucial aspects of the debate and conversation, which was very nice. People can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube primarily. Instagram and TikTok is where I have the most amount of stuff. YouTube, I just have like a single short there. Usually, if you look up at john.paul.leon on Instagram and TikTok, you should find me. On YouTube, I'm John Paul Leon / Sharp Young Minds. And so I think regarding closing statements, I do want to say throughout this debate, I do want to emphasize the moral and clarity in the framework that we have set up. Again, political violence is never justifiable. And the key distinction that I made early on in my opening statement and throughout the debate was that the acts of violence from the right is committed by the fringe right, and it is always condemned on the mainstream level. The fringe right also doesn't have a strong ideological backing or basis within the mainstream right, which is also fundamentally important to the conversation. Whereas the distinction I made between that and the left is that the mainstream left often normalizes and excuses violence and is typically in unison with these movements. You have Black Lives Matter, anti-ICE riots, you have pro-Palestine movements, you have people getting indoctrinated, or I don't like to use the word indoctrinated, but I would say mobilized at university campuses, completely radicalized. You have pro-life journalists being punched. And in reality, our top leaders of the Republican Party are the ones who are being shot and killed when you don't see that same impact on the left. And that's why I wanted to draw out my other key distinction, which was the just pure scope of everything. When you look at the whole scope, the most damaging event of sustained political violence in the US history were the BLM and Antifa riots. You don't see that same amount of impact coming from the right. So frankly, if we were to analyze it based off of responsibility and political violence, there's many of these things that these studies don't classify, many things that they include that they shouldn't include. And overall, when we just see the total impact and influence and responses from both parties, we see that the Republican Party has always condemned it. My opponents will say that they have not condemned it, but they have not shown a single example throughout this entire debate. And you see all of the other things going on with the left and how they're refusing to condemn it, like Destiny not condemning the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We can see that the situation is completely clear. The fringe right commits violence that we don't support. The Republican Party doesn't support. The mainstream left, it rationalizes, excuses, justifies, tolerates violence. And we see that has large-scale impact on the political landscape.
All right, Mr. Vince Wilson, give yourself a shout out. And yes,
I'm gonna try to do this without the internet hiccuping here.
All right.
First of all, yes, I'm the Vince Wilson Show. I do live streams. I do TikTok shorts, YouTube shorts. I said TikTok shorts. And if it's not a dedication, yes, I'm traveling and I am doing my best to try to facilitate this debate. I do enjoy having these debates with everybody on here, so I appreciate everybody on here. To my closing statement, I just want to say I think it's hilarious to hear that it's the left that continuously deflects when all we have seen throughout this entire debate was the right continuously deflect. How anytime we bring up an example of saying, hey, look, here's a contradiction, it gets deflected. I think in my opening statement, I mentioned even that there was and to what I was trying to get at by this is saying that when the right deflects, it creates kind of this victim mentality where essentially when one side, the left particularly, says, hey, guess what? We condemn this. I pulled up numerous quotes from Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. You got Chuck Schumer, who consistently condemn this rhetoric and hold it their own. They actually don't. They go through with the actual judicial process. But what we see is that the right will do this. We saw this recently with the Mormon incident where they said it was PTSD, it was this or that. We saw with January 6th where Andrew Wilson and we have seen where they sat there and said, well, there was no fund set up, but there was a fund, and then all of a sudden it didn't count. So what happens in this situation is when the right continuously deflects and they never take accountability, and the left does, it creates this idea that the left is the perpetrator. We've seen Donald Trump mention that the left is fascist, that the press is the enemy. We've seen where they talked about Stephen Miller, who's going out there and consistently using the same rhetoric. And time and time and time again, the right will use the same exact language. But because of the double standard, they don't hold their own to that same standard. They don't tell their own to stop using fascist and communist and Marxist when it may not even be necessarily need to be applied. But they don't hold their own to that same standard. And that is the issue at hand. So that's where I'll end my closing statement.
All right, Mr. Andrew Wilson, give yourself a shout out and your closing remarks.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson, the host of The Crucible. Obviously, by the way, and all of you guys here should know, I don't advocate for any type of doxing whatsoever, never have. I was using this as a rhetorical scale to show how you can escalate when it comes to rhetoric. So I've never done that to anybody, never going to, just pointing this out, that when somebody says it's on the table for you, for I can attack you, it's like, well, you see how that rhetoric will escalate. So, but anyway, that aside, right? And by the way, nobody here actually would think I would ever do anything like that,
Right, yeah.
nor instruct my audience to. But anyway, this aside, these guys got completely fucking murdered in this debate, and it was bad. And the problem is they just keep saying, well, you won't concede. You won't concede on these various points. We don't have to concede on these points. It's not necessary because the points were in our favor. We stuck to the facts. When you try to take these two positions and then you try to meld them as though they have some equivalency, you're just incorrect. And we were able to point this out over and over and over again. And we were able to logically demonstrate it over and over and over again. Why do you think Soy got so pissed off that he started trolling at the end and literally filibustered the last half hour of the debate? Because these guys were so frustrated that they couldn't contend with the fact that we were able to point out examples of escalating left-wing violence. And all that they could come up with is, well, maybe in some future election somewhere, the people who were pardoned for J6, who spent years in jail during this witch hunt, might try to come back out and overthrow it. It's the most ridiculous argument that anybody's ever heard. And we have every reason to be skeptical of it when they make it and draw out that the parallel here doesn't really make sense. Also, it's not high-profile leftists or who are getting shot. It's high-profile right-wingers, including Trump. They tried to assassinate him too. And we all know that the likelihood of that happening again from a leftist extremist is probably pretty high. Nobody thinks it's not even these two people. So the problem is that when you stick to the facts, this is what ends up happening. They end up not conceding out of good faith. They end up conceding because when you ask them a logical question, like, don't you think if there's a fucking bail fund, more people will show up? They say, yes. Show us the equivalent on the right. They couldn't. All Vince could come up with is after J6. A fund was opened up for legal assistance. That's not a bail fund. These people are the worst, fucking most atrocious liars I've ever heard in my life. So thing is like, ultimately, point for point, that's why we end up taking the W. So with that, I appreciate it, guys. You know, that's the end of that. But it'll be the last time for us, Soy, unless you ever want to have an actual serious debate. But I just,
all right.
like the whole idea of like, I'm just going to come on, and then when you get frustrated, you just troll for fucking 40 minutes. I just don't have any time
you
for it.
started with the dick sucking lips, man. I don't know what you want to say.
Nah. But anyway, go ahead.
Thank you everyone for joining. Big shout out to Andrew and Soy. You guys have literally infinite times more the audience than I do, so I really appreciate you coming and helping out and having fun on the channel. Well,
never forget, you might be obscure right now, but in 3 years you might be fucking the biggest thing who's ever existed. You never can tell how these things turn out. I'm always happy to assist people in their channel growth. I've always been really good about that. I don't care if they're right or left. If they have legitimate debates, I'm always happy to assist with that.
Yeah, man, I really do appreciate you guys coming out. And big shout out to the audience. We have 150 live viewers. That's almost the size of my channel. That is unbelievable. So everyone in the live section, thanks for coming out.
Are you on YouTube?
Like and sub.
Raid into you.
Sorry.
If you're on YouTube, we can raid into you too.
Oh yeah, I'm on YouTube right now. Corbin Sales. You can find me online at YouTube, at YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and the like. Thank you, everyone, for my amazing guests tonight. Shout out to John and Vince as well. You guys all did fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming
I
on.
tried.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Later, guys. Corbin, you gonna stay on a little bit? Or you getting off?
I'll stay on for like a minute or so.
Okay.
Everyone, make sure you like and sub. There's like 150 of you. I have an opportunity to like double my sub count right now. That's actually fucking crazy.
No, yeah,
we have
no.
over 156 live viewers right now.
Well, yeah, and
Crazy.
give them what
Oh, you're frozen again. Holy
I
shit.
think you're gonna do great with those. So keep the debates going, and
Holy shit.
know, yeah, just make sure. Hey guys, do me a favor, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Even though I know I saw most of the chat was dogging on me, and that's okay. I respect it.
Yeah.
I'm used to it. For anyone who's not been in my channel before, it's like a roast session. the entire
Big shout
time.
out to Andrew's viewer base too. Those guys are like, even after our one debate, they were pretty brutal to us in the comments when I posted it on my channel. But I mean, there's a lot of them that are really cool. Andrew, as much as he may be an asshole, genuinely is like a pretty cool guy.
Well, let me tell you, man. When it comes to these debates, I think the one thing about these debates is that it doesn't matter, and you'll notice that sometimes when me and Andrew get into boxing.
Oh yeah,
matches,
yeah.
you know,
You,
it's like
I think
we'll kind of like
you
we'll
guys the retarded opposite cousins of each other.
probably like we'll sit there and we'll like start boxing at each other, and then we'll like you know how boxers, they'll hug it out and then they'll go back to the corner and start boxing again, kind of thing. We kind of do some of that, but I don't want to make. I prepared 8 pages of notes. This is the last time I'm going to prepare 8 pages of notes because it absolutely failed. Dude, I stayed up till midnight last night, seriously going through these, and it never fails. That like, and that's why a lot of people in chat, as just so you guys are aware, why it looked like I was using ChatGPT, and I have no problem admitting that. Yes, ChatGPT is a great place to find a whole lot of things quickly on the fly. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, like maybe if you were using that like for your main source of information, I could. But like you were looking up something like mid debate just for like a quick search, like what's different from that, like doing Wikipedia or like quick Google search, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's when you use it to form an argument. So like if Andrew were to give me an argument and I was to be like, okay, how do I like? What's the counter argument to this? Then that extends a little bit further, right? I think that's when it's kind of like, it's kind of weird. Or like in the case of like the bail fund, I was like, okay, I can search that up on ChatGPT. It's not hard. Plus, I mean, you saw what happened with the DOJ thing, where the DOJ is taking down pages. I can't find those on the DOJ site. But you could probably.
Yeah, I need to look into that. I haven't.
No, great debate, man. Great debate.
Okay.
Keep it up. You're doing great, and keep up those hosts, man. Your numbers are going to double, guys. Do me a favor. I know people are coming in here from Andrew's show and Soy's show. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell for Corbin.
Yeah, and guys, check out his
might not
stuff
like
too.
him, yeah.
He's got a lot of cool stuff too. I know Andrew was writing on you a lot.
All right. I said I try to. It's 10 o'clock. I've been up since 6 a.m. I do this to try to grind as much as I can. So it's tough.
For me. It's like 12 o'clock where I'm at. Wait, what time is it? It's like 11 or 12. Hey, listen. You guys, and all the guys that came from Andrew's chat. You guys may like me now, but I was debating. Me and Vince were up against Andrew and Jake the Snake the other week. So.
Yeah, I'm out of topics. Jake messaged me. And he was like, "Hey," and I don't know if Andrew's listening or not, but he reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, what topics do you want to debate?" And I'm like, "I guess we could talk about the Charlie Kirk thing." And that's when you reached out to me. I was like, "Well, I guess we're doing it." So I did it last minute, and. Yeah, well, I'll go over it on my channel and I'll talk about what I think I could have done better or worse or things like that. I usually always review.
Are you live right now?
I'm not. I need to.
That's right.
But
you said you weren't live, yeah.
Dude, my internet connection is garbage. It's garbage. So clearly. Yeah. But anyways, good debate. Corbin, I'm gonna let you go, guys. Please subscribe to Corbin. Okay, what are you doing? 145 of you guys. If every one of you guys subscribe right now, you'd have at least 145 more. One more closer to 1,000.
Yeah, well, I just got. So. I think I'm close to. What am I at now? 260. Jesus, I got like 100 subs from this. Holy fuck.
Keep it
I
up,
was
man.
not
Keep it
expecting
up.
that. Jesus.
Keep doing the debates. Find some bigger content creators, and you'll do great.
Yeah.
Like Andrew said.
Yeah, I
debaters,
had
you know
some
where you're
pretty
gonna
good. I had some pretty big ones on last time. I had that Intel guy on. He's like a 130,000 TikToker, so he's really big on there. And then I had Politiscape on. He's another guy. He's a pretty big. I think he's like 22,000 subs.
be. Mhm.
He's a part of like the Unfuck America tour.
Nice.
Yeah.
Keep going through TikTok and stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, the TikTok debates are so much worse. I way prefer like YouTube debates, where I can have some time to prepare beforehand. Just like anyone jumping in and like trolling or just screaming the N word when they jump in. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Have you done? You've done like TikTok debates, right?
I do it all the time. That's kind of where
Oh no, we lost him.
it's been really low key lately for the past couple of weeks because of me being traveling, and it's
Oh yeah, you've been trapped. Oh, we lost him again.
in October.
Sorry, you
So,
cut out again.
Yeah, I'm gonna be gone for like 3 weeks out of October.
Damn.
So it's that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to like keep the grind going, but then at the same time I got my work grind going. So it's just insane.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. No, I know what you mean.
I will say I wouldn't mind having a debate with Andrew again. Maybe one-on-one, because like it
Yeah.
having
He and
2v2
Soy
not
kind of made up a lot of the time. I think they had like a little bit of personal beef going into the debate. At
probably.
least I think so, because Soy was like, "Oh
Yeah.
God, I'm debating Andrew Wilson," before I brought him on.
It'd be
There
interesting to have a
really funny
1v1.
shit there. I as much as I hate, as much as I love you, man. It optically speaking, it did look really bad when when I think Andrew asked you, what
The
did he ask?
fact?
Yeah, it was like, is it a fact? You know,
No, I understand.
of
Yeah,
law?
I mean,
yeah. I
But I
I
didn't
understood
get
maybe
this-
you just communicated it badly,
Right.
but still,
What I-
optically speaking, that was really
what
funny.
I didn't, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And I think the one thing that I think I was trying to get out was that facts are like, when I look at fact, because I'm a big legal nerd. And so when I look at like fact, the jurors are fact finders, right? They're looking to make sure, okay, are these facts, matching up to the crime in which they committed? So technically, right, if the jury finds you guilty, it is a fact that you are guilty, but that is in the scope and eyes of the law. So I understand that people can be falsely convicted. This whole reason we have the death
Right.
penalty, where we have to have the overturning and stuff. So I get the optics. I totally get it. But that was not at all like what I was trying to say. But
Yeah. No, I got that. Although I will say the pickle one was pretty funny. Because
yeah, I had to throw something in there because them two were kept going.
I
was
was
like, I gotta throw something.
I was like dying inside. I'm like, oh my god, I want to laugh so hard. Jesus, yeah.
I got you.
I almost wanted to bring that up in our first debate with Andrew, but I was thinking like we're not in full on meme territory, those like personal kind of insults and attacks. As much as Andrew may jab here and there, or you may jab back. I like at that point you're just like in full on meme. I don't give a fuck territory, which is unfortunately kind of where it devolved into. Well, I guess unfortunate for me as the moderator, but obviously it was good entertainment for the.
No, yeah. It's all good. Well, man, look, it's getting late where I'm at. I'm sure it's late where you're at. I don't want to. I'm sure right now, because most of the people I think in the audience right now are Andrew Wilson supporters, and they're going ham on me, and that's okay. I respect it. Listen, I don't mind a little back and forth. But I'm gonna get going. All right, guys, listen. Even if you hate me, okay, and you hate my points, and you think I am terrible at debating, okay, which I'm probably gonna say, and I just want to acknowledge this last thing. I feel like a lot of people don't understand when it's a 2v2. By the time they stop arguing and then I come back to my point, that point has already set sail and it's across the Atlantic Ocean. So like that's the problem with the debate with having 2v2. It's like trying to jump in and get that point across. Like, when John Paul said, like something about, can you name somebody who did this? I'm like, well, it's kind of difficult now because as soon as he said that, Andrew and Soy started going at it. So I'm like, I can't address this point. So it's hard to have those kind of breaks in the conversation where it looks like you're just coming in just to kind of mention a point. It's a random, it sounds like a random point. So, but I know it doesn't change the perception. But guys, please hit the like, subscribe, notification bell. I'm gonna get going. Corbin.
There's some Andrew fans in here talking.
There's definitely
talking good. Vince, you seem like a pretty cool dude.
Don't read the chat, man. You're gonna.
Let's see.
It's brutal, man.
There's definitely a lot more people being mean than nice, but you got someone there.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I do it on my channel all the time. I have hate watchers and stuff. So okay.
Yeah, I get a lot of flack too.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk with you later, Corbin. If you set up another debate, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you back on.
And do all that. Thanks, man.
I don't know if Soy or Andrew are ever going to be on the same panel again after that, but especially after I think Soy went after Andrew's wife. I don't think I personally do that, but to each their own.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get going. Y'all have a great night. Once again, for the 100th time, guys, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell for my boy Corbin. All right, let this man get up there. He deserves it. He's gonna be making big moves. So, all right, guys, take care. Corbin, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. All righty. I guess that was it. Yeah. Let's see. What did you guys think in chat? Let's get some comments on that. What did you guys think about the debate? Me personally, I don't want to claim who I thought did better or worse. I think there were optical high points and low points for both sides. I think Soy was probably optically the best, just because I think he, aside from up to the end, I think he kept. Well, actually, no, maybe John. Maybe John was optically the best, just because he was a bit more optically neutral than Soy and Andrew. Of course, by the end of it, Andrew and Soy were both way in the red, optically speaking. I think an hour of trolling between Andrew and Soy would have been good fireworks. If Rachel came on, Soy would have been eviscerated. That would be funny too. I want to get I should reach out to Rachel at some point. I think she would be fun to have on. Clean your monitor better. Get a better microphone. Yeah, this is a mobile mic I have. So it's kind of shit right now. Because I'm in between places. This isn't even technically my computer or my setup. The PC is mine, but the monitors aren't. So I'm still kind of, like I said, between places. Yo, Shure makes great mics. Sure, never heard of that. Shure microphones. Thank you, Patrick. Remember Jordan Peterson before he sold out to the Daily Wire? I do. No, I don't know, man. I think those drugs probably killed his brain. I don't know what the hell happened to Jordan Peterson. I feel like a debate between Andrew and Jordan would be really funny, just because they're both a bit more philosophy oriented. I think they both operate better in terms of philosophy. I have hardcore disagreements with both of them when they get into politics, but I think I'm a big fan of both Andrew and Jordan when they get into philosophy. Well, actually, let me correct that. I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson's old philosophy. A lot of his like Christian apologia stuff it has been pretty bad. That Jubilee debate that he had was pretty fucking awful. What's wrong with my eye? I don't know. I've always just kind of had like a little bit of a twitch. Some of it is from when I'm tired, my eyes get kind of baggy. Another part of it is when I'm a little nervous. Obviously, this was like a big debate. I haven't really moderated any before. I've moderated like a couple, but usually, this was pretty particularly difficult debate to moderate because Andrew and Soy just really wanted to get at each other's necks. But that's part of it. Yeah, I do have ADHD too. That as well, like diagnosed. He's doing more good than Jordan Peterson. I think in the abstract, I'd agree. But I think Andrew's politics are pretty bad, all in all. I like him when he's doing a lot more philosophy-oriented things, like I said. Like when he went on with Tim Pool, and he was just eviscerating Tim Pool on all of Tim's like retarded philosophy points. When Tim like didn't understand the law of non-contradiction, that was pretty funny. Or when he tried to like argue that you can like build out rights, I think from objective morality, was pretty stupid too. Damn, John got a lot of subs too. He went from like 11 at the beginning of this. Here, I'll pull it up for you guys. So mind you, John started at like 11 subs on this channel. Now he's up to 57. So that's pretty decent actually. Not bad. Not bad, John. Also, you guys should like hardcore check out John's stuff. He's really dope. Obviously, I have a lot of disagreements with him politically, but he does really good stuff. His name is John Paul Leon. Here, I'll link it in chat. No, wrong one. Would you fuck off? Here, guys, go give John a follow. I'm new to the channel. Do you ever take viewer calls or debates? Not usually on my YouTube live, just because I don't go live on YouTube that much, but I do take like random callers on TikTok. That's actually like most of my debates on TikTok is just random people. Yeah, that's right. K9 Echo. He's the UC Berkeley president of the TPUSA chapter over there. He's a really chill dude. We've known each other for like a month now. Yeah, I should get into X Spaces. Well, Groovy, I do kind of do like a call show already, kind of. It's on TikTok. That's, I guess, technically speaking, that's pretty much what every TikTok is. Damn it, I wish I was monetized so I could take super chats. Did the matchup with Andrew work out? That's up to everyone's interpretation, all right? I don't know. Is YouTube like seen more serious in terms of debates than TikTok? Because I feel like there's a lot of really big, like serious political debaters on TikTok. Obviously, Dean Withers being a good example. I am 22, and I actually just finished my associate's degree. I'm taking a year off from college to, work in travel and do politics. No, Groovy. Dean and Parker specifically, like their main platform is TikTok. Like they have millions upon millions of followers on there, and they go live to like 10,000 viewers. Oh, thanks, Devin. Thank you, Xion's Bizarre Adventure. That's an interesting name. I will continue fostering conversations, no matter how much of a shit posting session they become. All right. Oh God, yeah, the TikTok mute. That's why I pretty much stopped going on to other people's lives in TikTok because I don't like being muted like 24/7. I like doing the muting. Just follow on Twitter. Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, this debate did not go as I expected. I got way more views, like actually just crazy viewers. Are most of you guys from Andrew's chat? Because that was kind of the same thing with me and Vincent's last debate against Andrew. It was mostly a lot of you guys from the Crucible came over and watched it. Oh, nice. Did any of you guys see my first debate with Andrew? Because if you did, what did you think about my first debate with him? Oh, you don't even have to check it out in his archive. He didn't post the full debate. The full thing is available on my channel. He only posted like a snippet, I think actually today. Yeah. I mean, I think Andrew just posted the debate to his, or part of the debate to his channel today. Let's see if I can find it. Crucible. Oh, Andrew's still alive. Yeah, here it is. I found it. Childish liberal. Can't answer simple question, then backtracks. So this segment of the debate was weird to upload. Like, so this is the thumbnail for it. Like, I'm in the thumbnail, but like, I think we're arguing specifically over the Abrego Garcia case, which was what Vince had brought up. And I feel like Vince was arguing more in this segment than I was. So
Sure. Andrew, you said that Trump did not defy the Supreme Court. What do you mean by that?
Vincent's.
Yeah, what higher court
Okay.
rulings have been issued by the Supreme Court which he's defying?
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought you did well, but didn't know factual info. I think I did have the facts of the matter down pretty decently. I think what happened when we were arguing over that section 12406 in the debate, which actually took up a decent chunk of it, was the I think I was making the point that Gavin Newsom had the ability to veto Trump because the language in the code says these orders, that being federalizing the National Guard for whatever federal purpose, are to be issued through the governor. I was interpreting that as the governor has the ability to veto Trump's federalization of the National Guard, and I don't think that's quite it. I think actually that that 12th Circuit Court of Appeals had overturned the ruling by Judge Breyer, basically stating that that ruling, or that language, the condition of, the governor issuing the orders, wasn't granting him veto power over Trump. It was more procedural. So like the chain of command is the president, then the governor gives out orders to the federal guard. It wasn't like a conditional criteria in that statute. JD, yes, that's the one we were talking about, consolidating power. I still don't think Andrew made like a great response or a great rebuttal in response to mine, even though I was operating off of a misinterpretation of that statute. Andrew, I think, also wasn't aware of the statute, so he was just kind of taking my interpretation as fact. The way that from what I remember, the way that he tried to rebut it was he tried to say that, well, that statute shouldn't matter, or that power shouldn't matter, because Gavin Newsom was allowing the rioting to happen, which I don't think is necessarily like a good point in response to it. Because if you want to make that argument, right, whenever the president decides to do X, Y, or Z, and decides X, Y, or Z and to federalize the National Guard, and the governor says no, well, the justification always could be, okay, but like it's justified, right? Like there's rebellion, so that statute shouldn't matter. When I think there are other ways to punish the governor outside of just violating, state rights, right? Like if the governor didn't do well, maybe you could withhold funding, or if he defied or vetoed the president's federal order, maybe you could withhold funding, or you could, he could be voted out of office again. That there are other ways to punish executives of the state without having to strip states of their rights. Yeah, and then when we tried to bring up like actual video evidence, I think it like demonstrably showed that the police were doing something. Yes, Pat. Specifically, it is about chain of command. The actual reason for that statute, or the actual language in that statute, is referring to chain of command or procedure, where Donald Trump gives the order to the governor, and then the governor issues the order to the National Guard, or the general adjutant, who's the head of the state National Guard. Yeah, I don't. But again, Andrew wasn't familiar with the statute, so he was just kind of taking my interpretation as fact. I think he tried to argue his way out of it. The better rebuttal obviously would have been to bring up, I think, the actual purpose for that legal language, which was that it's a procedural matter about chain of command, not like a conditional matter where the governor's word has ultimate authority over the National Guard. All right, guys, can we get to 300 subs tonight? Can we do it? Can we get to 300 subs? If you haven't already, like and subscribe. I want to get to 300, hopefully by at least the next couple of weeks. But growth is really slow for me. Jesus, I'm tired. I was trying to find a video that's supporting claiming he was asking the chat to produce it, but I found none, and neither did he. Just waiting for some system. All right, ladies and gents. Well, I think I am going to call it a night. Let's see where we up to. 268 subs. We got like 100 subs from this. That was pretty fucking cool. Thank you guys legitimately for coming out. It was a lot of fun. But I think I'm going to call it a night. Good night, everyone. Tune in for the next time. I'll be back sometime next week with more debates, more conversations, and more content. I'm Corbin Sales. Thanks for joining me.